Falling Blossoms Ghost Kingdom, an isolated island kingdom in the middle of the sea. Because it was abundant in cherry-like beauties and ghost martial cultivators that loved to kill, that is how it received its name. The dynasties of many countries in the past attempted to conquer this kind of sea country, but the sea area of the heavenly moat was a huge protective screen. Every time an entire country invaded, the Falling Blossoms Ghost Kingdom's yin-yang masters, star cultivators, and ghost martial cultivators all would simultaneously set out on a campaign. There was no alternative to millions of armed forces, however, these were not difficult problems to star cultivators. As long as they were careful, they could very easily land on this island nation. Kagoshima, too, was located in one of Falling Blossoms Ghost Kingdom's most peripheral counties. Overlooking the flaming yellow sea, the environment on the island was graceful, with uninterrupted cherry trees. Every third month of spring, when the breeze passed, the cherry blossoms were like an ocean, with the entire Kagoshima decorated in beauty past compare. Such a beautiful place also was the favorite place for many dual cultivation partners. Over time, Kagoshima then became a place with a connection to the Azure Dragon territory. It also unconsciously established the most bustling island city on the flaming yellow sea. This place was also the Falling Blossoms Ghost Kingdom's largest non-public gathering place for star cultivators. Regardless of whether one was a star cultivator, yin-yang master or ghost martial cultivator, all these figures were seen. And the place Su Xing came to was precisely this Kagoshima. Rather than say Antler City, 3, was Kagoshima's most flourishing city, it would be better to say it was an immense business market square. In this kind of place of the Falling Blossoms Kingdom, the bustle of the night was often even more flourishing than the day. When Su Xing arrived at Kagoshima Market Square, the sun was already setting in the west, the dark night coming forth. On the market square's main street people flowed restlessly, brightly lit. Magic treasures and artifacts, pills and talismans, and magic circles were all concentrated together. Even the brothels of sensual pleasures were everywhere to be seen in this antler city. Everything had been orderly planned out, which made Su Xing gasp in amazement. This kind of scale was but larger than Bian City by several factors. From the materials Su Xing knew, the one who ruled the whole Kagoshima Market Square was reportedly the Crystal Dragon King's palace, one of the Azure Dragon territories, 3 palaces. To think that it was the Crystal Dragon King's palace, Su Xing actually understood clearly the scale of Kagoshima. What sort of place was the Crystal Dragon King's palace? As the Azure Dragon territory's most top-notch treasure sect, their cave dwelling reportedly was established in the deep sea. The Crystal Dragon King's palace's treasure feast was but Liangshan's most first-rate banquet. In this gathering, every magic weapon item that would be sold or available for transaction had values that were not below 100 billion liang of gold. At the Crystal Dragon King's palace, you practically could buy anything you could think of. Su Xing, Suan, and Yanizhan walked on the main street. 5. The things sold here not only divided the districts, even the street names were corresponding characteristics. This main street was Antler City's biggest mineral marketplace for minerals. Antler Market Square's mineral marketplace was very famous. That place distributed every kind of essence, stone and minerals. It could be said to be Azure Dragon territory's largest selling grounds. As long as you had enough capital, regardless of whether it was the Earth quintessential extreme winding essence gold, or the Black Prison Devil Jade under the 9 hells, or the Arctic Arrival or 6, in the deep sea, or even the savagely treasured minerals that came from the White Tiger territory, all could be found. The market square had a massive crowd. Su Xing indeed opened wide his ken. Cultivators that wore every kind of oddly shaped and made garments were innumerable in succession. Passing through this period of time of tempering, he would not be this easily shocked. After the star duels began, Kagoshima's market square then turned even more bustling. Even if we encountered a star general here, it would not be strange. There also are many star masters advancing the grade of star weapons that would be here. Master, we must be somewhat more careful. This already was not the first time Yanizhan was here, and she very easily introduced things. Su Xing nodded. He already ingested pills to alter his appearance. His clothing also was a prince's florid pattern, which Yanisian's made uniform matched flawlessly. That silk brocade of Ansuan's also made people think from a look that she was Su Xing's woman. The three people walked near a booth, and Su Xing brimmed with interest as sized up the assortment of ores that this booth had. Due to Kagoshima itself having a very large forbid dance, each store had the Dragon King's palace's guarantee, so there was no need to fear being plundered by others. Su Xing first of all wanted to go find Daybreak Frost and Snow Essence. A few ordinary shops and booths could not possibly sell this kind of precious thing. Ever since the star duels began, the raw materials for star weapon grade advancement developed according to the situation and were even more rare. Soon, Su Xing spotted a North Kingdom Cold Wind 7 shop. North Kingdom was the Azure Dragon Territory's northernmost country. Situated upon a tundra, it was covered in ice and snow year-round. He did not expect to be able to see a shop that came from the North Kingdom, so Su Xing curiously walked inside. When he went in, Su Xing he could not help but feel a bone-chilling ice cold. Drawing in a mouthful of cold air, he saw that the ores inside the store was astonishingly many, with every kind of fantastic oddity of a stone were all there. Originally, Su Xing believed that it was pretty good to have more than 10 pieces of Arctic-type ores, but this place surprisingly had a vast stretch, with some even being never before seen. Due to these stones, crystals and jades coming from a deep cold, they made the room enveloped in an extremely chill. If one star energy was slightly weaker, then they would be somewhat cold. To the extent that there were not many cultivators inside the store. The shop assistants were several pleasant women, their clothing actually thin, completely contrary to the chilliness in the room. Spotting Su Xing, they smiled and welcomed him. Galaxy stage cultivators always were masters that had capital. Spotting some Ice Kite Arctic Stone 8 from the North Kingdom's most extreme locations, Su Xing's eyes let off light. This kind of stone was a considerable rarity. Forging it into weapons would make cold and ice permeate everywhere. Reportedly, it could shape-shift into an ancient spirit bird, Ice Kite. If it was used to forge the cold, Ice Kite bullets, it would be the perfect material. It was a pity that it was too expensive, at 100 million liang of gold apiece. This was robbery. Young lord, there must be something you like. A blue-clothed pretty woman smiled and asked. I'll take a look first. Su Xing did not make a clear-cut reply. Although he had plundered many chests and obtained ample capital, heaven knew how expensive Daybreak Frost and Snow Essence was. Very well. Searching for a while, inside the store were many Arctic-type ores, with even several pieces of Arctic cloud ice souls, but as it happened, he could not find Daybreak Frost and Ice Essence. Su Xing was somewhat disappointed, but he did not hope to buy some the moment he arrived. It seems what I want isn't here. Su Xing shook his head. This young lord, could it be that you want to buy those supreme grade ores? The woman asked. We are but Kagoshima Market Square's largest store that sells Arctic-type ores. If it could not be found here, perhaps you would have much difficulty finding it. Then do you know what other places here specialize in Arctic-type jades and ores? Su Xing asked. The woman was stunned by Su Xing's question, not expecting there would be people that would ask her like this. Su Xing gave her a gold ingot. Since this is the biggest store, don't tell me that it still fears others fighting for customers. Young lord sure knows how to speak. The woman rejected the gold. Your servant does not want gold, but there is no harm in telling young lord either. At Earthly Treasure Street, 9, there are several stores that sell Arctic stone, however, normal people are but unable to purchase them. The woman's eyeballs looked around her own store, and Su Xing then knew what she wanted to do. If I truly can purchase it, what harm is there in helping a beautiful woman do a bit of business? I want this piece of Ice Kite Arctic stone. Su Xing chuckled, however, I do not have 100 million liang of gold. How about I use 5 pieces of cloud pattern dipper silver? Young lord really does take unfair advantage. 5 pieces of cloud pattern dipper silver is no more than 50 million liang. But the discrepancy is off by a lot. The woman covered her mouth. Su Xing indeed took that piece of ice kite Arctic stone to his liking, adding several kinds of essence or after some thought. Big brother, did you choose a good item? And Suan moved over inquisitively when she saw Su Xing bargain for prices with the woman. This ice kite Arctic stone I feel is not bad. Su Xing looked at that stone and shook his head, but the value is 100 million. Young lord, how could you say this? For this ice kite Arctic stone, 100 million is indeed the lowest. The woman still smiled. Su Xing was unconcerned. His tool refinement was somewhat standard, so naturally his insight was sharp, because that Arctic stone of yours was put outside for too long, its Arctic chi has wear and tear, far from being able to compare to those that only just came out. Using it for refinement is a great loss of value. This 100 million still cannot be compared to lacking a few stones. We ourselves prepared every sort of method to guarantee the purity of the ice kite Arctic stone's Arctic chi. How could the thing that young lord said happen? The woman shook her head. I am a tool refinement master, how could it be that I am fooling you? Su Xing twitched his mouth. Tool refinement master? His counterpart was somewhat surprised, however, she immediately clearly understood. A tool refinement master visiting Kagoshima Market Square was not some novel affair, but judging from Su Xing's age, this tool refinement master would not have any standard. You don't believe me? I'll point it out for you to see. If you cannot accept it wholeheartedly, I will dismount at once. I won't speak nonsense, but if your eyes are dull, Su Xing stopped when he said this. Then use the 5 pieces of cloud pattern dipper silver that young lord spoke of for exchange. This concerned their reputation, so the woman naturally was not ready to shrink back. Clasping the ice kite Arctic stone in his hand, he only felt cold chi down to his bones. Young lord, what have prepared for your servant to see? The woman smiled. At this time, there already were several cultivators that had surrounded them out of curiosity. They also could not discern what was different about this piece of ice kite Arctic stone. Do you see how the impurity here is somewhat different? Su Xing pointed at a corner. Everyone looked, and indeed, the color was dull. If a hand was used to feel it, it seemed that no Arctic chi could be felt. The ice kite Arctic stone's greatest characteristic was ice, but that place was like water. Clearly, this was an inferior product. Everyone was in an uproar. The woman opened her mouth in disbelief. How could this be? We definitely already inspected it. She looked at Su Xing in infinite bewilderment. Su Xing smiled and said, You won't doubt that I am playing tricks? To turn a piece of first-rate Arctic stone into this, do you feel that I can manage it this instant? The woman warmed her expression. This had to be so. A Galaxy early-stage cultivator was far from being able to alter to the extreme Arctic ice kite Arctic stone. This could not be accomplished without a special ability and extremely powerful control over star energy. Could it be she really made a mistake? The woman's heart had some regrets. But in front of everyone's faces, she could not smash the store's reputation. Your servant's name is Diao Yu, 10, so take this as making young lord's acquaintance. May I venture to ask young lord's name? Diao Yu smiled sweetly. Call me Su Xing. Su Xing said. Fellow Su Xing truly has good eyesight. In the future, you certainly have great prospects. As for this ice kite Arctic stone, your servant presents this to young lord as the Extreme Ice Holy Palace's 11 gift of friendship. Extreme Ice Holy Palace? A present to me? Su Xing was astonished. When young lord someday achieves meteoric success and becomes a tool refinement scholar, the Extreme Ice Holy Palace certainly will look up to young lord. Diao Yu spoke bluntly. Seeing her eyes flicker, Su Xing immediately understood. She already could tell that he actually used a trick on the ice kite Arctic stone. So you do know. Why? Su Xing asked in rumination. What young lord used just now definitely was the heavenly water heart flame. This is the tool refinement heart flame of scholar Ju Yueka's soul school. To be able to make friends with a tool refinement scholar's disciple certainly has always been a little girl's as well as the Holy Palace's cherished dream. Diao Yu executed sound transmission. This frankness of hers actually made the Su Xing who pulled a few tricks just now feel somewhat sorry, for he felt this woman was really cute. Since she put it this way, to do something like hurt a beauty's heart, Su Xing had no need to go do this. 1. The context provided here clarifies that it is falling blossoms, not falling cherry ghost kingdom. Think, Sakura. Right arrow curving left 2. Right arrow curving left 3. Which has made me debate on whether the author intended for this to be Kagoshima or, say, Dear Child Island right arrow curving left 4. Right arrow curving left 5. Right arrow curving left 6. Right arrow curving left 7. Right arrow curving left 8. Kite, as in the bird. Right arrow curving left 9. Right arrow curving left 10. Right arrow curving left 11. Seeing that the Taoist Sang Jing was unsettled and wavering, Su Xing said, If senior does not wish to exchange, there is no problem. This one beneath you can understand. Liangshan's great and eccentric items are more and more emergent. Even if it was senior, you could not possibly have seen everything. In the future, speaking cautiously will do. Hearing these words, Ruojin was extremely angry. How could he not hear the needle hidden in the silk of Su Xing's words? What understanding was that? It was clearly mockery. As far as this virtuous, prestigious and arrogant tool refinement great master was concerned, how could he lose face? Senior Tsang Jing, this sword is only a cheap trick, not something that counts as odd. Ruojin promptly said. The Taoist Tsang Jing waved his hand, hinting at him to say no more. Deeply sighing, this old man did not correctly guess this sword's capabilities, so naturally, this old man admits that it is a rare item. This old man also is indeed fond of it, but a solely sealing-type artifact or magic weapon in Liangshan is not extraordinary. Using it on a sword is something clever to get what you want, as he says. How about this, then? If you can find another thing that this old man has similarly never seen before, then this old man will not object. Without mentioning that Ansuan was somewhat dissatisfied, feeling that he was finding an excuse, even Yan Yizhen wrinkled her brow. The maid would rather use martial force to teach an untrustworthy person a lesson. The Taoist Tsang Jing's refusal was actually within Su Xing's expectations, and he only indifferently said, This one beneath you actually has a similarly peculiar item. Senior absolutely has not seen it before, however, it seems that Senior does not sincerely want to exchange and merely wants to use this as a pretext to experience treats for the eyes. This one beneath you withdraws. Saying this, Su Xing then rose to leave. Wait! The Taoist Tsang Jing promptly shouted. Should Su Xing truly leave, his reputation would be completely ruined. If it truly is a peculiar item, this old man shall exchange with you. This one beneath you has never planned to exchange this at all. Su Xing turned, slightly smiling. Senior Tsang Jing, what good thing could he have? He must be fooling you. Ruojin immediately said. If it truly is something this old man has never seen before, then this old man does not want your things but will gift the daybreak frost and snow essence to you. How about it? The Taoist Tsang Jing's words were within Su Xing's expectations once more. Such a prideful and arrogant tool refinement great master as he would certainly not be resigned to this, so opening this sort of condition was reasonable. Then Junior will believe in Senior for once. Su Xing nodded. From his astral bag flew out something sparkling with a bright silver light. It could be held in the hand, seemingly a sword yet not a sword, shaped extremely oddly. This naturally was Silver Blade. The Taoist Tsang Jing felt it up. Searching inside with his divine intent, he showed a shocked expression. He had thought himself experienced and knowledgeable, with much self-confidence on tool refinement, but the strange structure of the silver blade that Su Xing brought out was unprecedented. Even he had never seen anything like those dazzling components. Furthermore, the interior had some mechanisms that were even more fantastic. The Taoist Sung Jing knew with a look that was something that Liangshan could not possibly forge. With regards to his shock, this was again within Su Xing's expectations. Although Liangshan Continent's tool refinement was superb, Silver Blade was built with a few industrial arts using modern super-accurate machinery. In particular, this silver blade was specially manufactured with some mixed elements and materials that were simply impossible to appear in Liangshan. This sort of thing is only shaped strangely. Ruojin did not accept this. Su Xing took out a few bullets he had manufactured beforehand, and he loaded them into the magazine afterwards. Handing it over to the Taoist Sung Jing, "Senior, what kind of rank do you think this weapon is categorized as?" This old man is unsure. The Taoist Sung Jing shook his head. The handgun did not have any magic energy, nor was an amulet or magic seal engraved upon it. In short, of the characteristics an artifact should have had, it did not have a single one. On first glance, it was ordinary without any oddities. It was that sort of only a simple decoration as Ruojin said, but the internal structure was clearly terrifyingly precise. Seeing Su Xing load conical iron bullets inside, the Taoist Sung Jing wrinkled his brow. "Senior, try pulling the trigger," Su Xing said. "Trigger?" The Taoist Sung Jing was confused. "It's this." Su Xing pointed. Bang! The bullet left the barrel. It whizzed, seemingly breaking the air. Unexpectedly, it was far more powerful than those conical projectiles. Could this be a firearm? The Taoist Sung Jing said in shock. Liangshan had firearms, but whether it be shape or this kind of weapon structure, it was completely different. Furthermore, they could not possibly have such speed. "It is whatever Senior feels it is." Su Xing stowed Silver Blade away. The Taoist Sung Jing mockingly smiled. "From Elder Senior's shock just then to now, it may be assumed that you have never seen it before?" And Suan thought he was about to renege again. She could not help wrinkling her brow, her tone resentful. "If I may ask, I wonder where this thing came from?" The Taoist Sung Jing seriously said. "I found it in a ruin." As expected, it is this. This type of mysterious thing can only appear in ancient prehistoric ruins. The Taoist Sung Jing exclaimed. "Ah, Senior, you are not actually thinking of using 400 million liang of gold to exchange for 5 million liang?" Ruojin was about to go mad. "To be able to see such a supernaturally fine thing, do not tell me it is 400 million. It may as well be worth 40 billion. The Taoist Sung Jing was resolute. Su Xing thought, he is indeed a wily old fox. Now, he's actually saying some pretty words. Little brother is a god as expected. This old man is won over, so this daybreak frost and snow shall be gifted to you." The Taoist Sung Jing waved his hand, and a piece of white, sharply shining stone that was like snow yet unlike it appeared. It was the daybreak frost and snow essence Su Xing needed. Su Xing's heart was content, and he received the daybreak frost and snow essence without hesitation. The eyes of the Ruojin watching from the side were red. This old man no longer wants that sword either. As long as little brother informs this old man how it is refined. The Taoist Sung Jing cupped his fist this time. Within the veins of a tool refinement master, asking for instruction from subordinates was not at all a shameful matter. Su Xing nodded. The Devil's Sealing Sword was not that exceptional anyways. "Senior, you truly are mad. You do not want Ruojin's 400 million liang, yet unexpectedly because of these spare pieces of scrap," Ruojin blurted out. "You may leave now." The Taoist Sung Jing's tone was ice cold. Ruojin was unsightly. Ruthlessly glaring at Su Xing, he then angrily left. When he left, the Taoist Sung Jing kindly warned, "This Li Ruojin is the son of one of the Azure Dragon Territory's aristocratic families. Now that you have taken the daybreak frost and snow essence, you must take note of him. A single slip may cause everlasting sorrow. We'll just have to see what he will go choose." Su Xing said disdainfully. The Taoist Sung Jing's eyelids jumped. What Diao Yu said was true. Little brother is sure enough a distinguished genius. Your future prospects certainly have no bounds, so this old man has here a tool refinement program, too, that little brother can take away to analyze if you have interest. Then thanks to Senior. Su Xing cupped his hands. This Taoist Sung Jing's qualifications were ample, and by means of his wandering the four seas, he made friends with and understood the perspectives of every large sect. His accumulated experience was evidently very helpful, for tool refinement masters were just this way. If you wanted to constantly improve, to walk down a few less winding roads, the lifetime of experiences of a tool refinement master were extremely helpful. The Wu Tai from that time was only an average tool refinement master, yet his life experiences brought Su Xing the greatest conveniences. These great masters' experiences would certainly be recognized with a thought. When he came out of the grass storage shop, the Taoist Sung Jing's deferential attitude made Su Xing feel embarrassed. I never expected to obtain the final piece of daybreak frost and snow essence this easily. Su Xing's present mood was in fairly high spirits. However, there were people who were bound to not let Su Xing pass with such relaxation. Li Ruojin had waited outside for a long time, and he barred Su Xing's way. Yanizhan put herself in front. Su Xing patted the maid's shoulder, notifying little E to fall back to the side. Su Xing smiled. Does fellow wish to rob me? He was not worried. If his opponent truly had wicked intentions, Su Xing did not mind getting rid of an evil for the people. Li Ruojin's expression fluctuated between fine and evil. He harumphed, how could this young lord do that sort of base thing as looting? This fellow used those cheap trick items to obtain the daybreak frost and snow essence, which Ruojin finds admirable. How about selling that piece of daybreak frost and snow essence to your servant? 400 million apiece is not low. Do you feel I will agree? Su Xing asked in turn. Li Ruojin was somewhat unsightly. Does fellow not fear scalding his hand holding this kind of precious thing? What say you? Su Xing thoughtfully asked, smiling. Li Ruojin had no words to say. From the outfit on Su Xing's body, he naturally knew his counterpart's background was not low. Although he was galaxy early stage, looking at that cold and detached maid, her martial force had an appearance out of the ordinary. Li Ruojin harumphed, not wanting to stir up trouble over this daybreak frost and snow essence. Just as he wanted to leave, Su Xing rolled his eyes, with the crafty thought to loot a burning house. Brother Ruojin, if you truly want it, then this one beneath you has a way. What way? Li Ruojin smiled and could not help but ask. Wouldn't it be better for us to make a bet? Su Xing said, I'll wager the daybreak frost and snow essence, and you wager the 400 million liang of gold and whatever origin heaven will artifact that was. How do we gamble? Let those two bodyguards of yours and my little E have an unarmed battle. Whoever wins will go back. Su Xing looked at Yanizhan. The maid's face was expressionless, but she imperceptibly nodded. 2 bodyguards against your 1 maid. That's rather too arrogant. Li Ruojin lowered his voice. His bodyguards were certainly incredible martial cultivators, and to handle a galaxy early stage cultivator, they were enough to ensure a grisly end for the counterpart if he did not use a sword chant. Hearing Su Xing's words, he coldly sized up Yanizhan, but he could not make out anything. Star General, but if it was unarmed, this type of Star General was extremely few. Li Ruojin naturally was not convinced the superficial youth could contract the talented and brilliant skillful star. How about it? This will also give you a bit of enlightenment, so as to avoid you making a slip that causes everlasting sorrow. Su Xing dully said. Hesitating over and over again, although his counterpart made clear he was provoking him, Li Ruojin really did not believe his 2 martial cultivators could not take care of the opponent. He also indeed had thought of robbing and killing, and now the other party gave him an open and candid excuse. Li Ruojin did not want to miss this. You 2 go, do not show mercy. Li Ruojin coldly said, beat her, 1 man for 10 million times. As you wish, young master. Little E, don't mind increasing our traveling expenses by a bit? Su Xing said. Master is gentle as expected. Does slave servants still need to be considerate handling this type of person? Liangshan apathetically said, her tone cold as she walked forward. The two martial practitioners assumed their stances, as if feeling that two big men bullying a woman was somewhat without face. One of them looked at his compatriot. Liangshan's expression was indifferent, as if their figures wandered outside of her line of sight. You two come over. What an arrogant maid. One of the bodyguards shouted. Watch my fierce tiger descends the mountain. 3. Immediately, he rose in a leap, his two fists vigorously raising wind, with the faint hiss of wind. The maid's figure dodged. That was a matter that happened in a split second. Li Ruojin was unable to react. That bodyguard covered his throat as he knelt where he was and vomited. Liangshan slowly brushed past him. The maid's tone was an old well without a ripple. Next is you. The bodyguard was dumbstruck. This Kagoshima actually is a good place. Su Xing praised as he held a astral bag in his hand. He had come to Kagoshima for only a few hours, yet his harvest was quite plentiful, even more than robbing and killing for a birth outline heavenly spirit chest. 1 piece of ice kite arctic stone, 1 piece of daybreak frost and snow essence, as well as Li Ruojin's double offer of 400 million liang of gold and the galaxy artifact origin heaven wheel. And Suan lightly smiled, Sister Yijin is truly incredible. Next, let's go see whether or not we can help Little Yi purchase what she needs to upgrade her star weapon. With this much capital, Su Xing was energized. Slave servant has troubled master. Liangshan was flat as before. Liangshan needed roasting yang stone and Yin cold jade to upgrade to 2-star. The former could actually be regarded as easy to purchase, for he was just able to use the 400 million Li Ruojin sent to buy 2 pieces of roasting yang stone. The latter was more difficult. This kind of Yin cold jade was not an ordinary jade, rather, it was a perfect Arctic jade extracted from going through a jade craftsman's sculpting. Its value was even more expensive than daybreak frost and snow essence. Su Xing searched for half a day before he saw one at an auction, however, this type of item did not use gold for the transaction. It used magic weapons, precious stone materials, treasures, etc. Su Xing roughly estimated that piece of Yin cold jade's value was 1 billion liang when converted to gold, which truly made Su Xing feel that money was not money. Su Xing's most valuable was only the extreme winding essence gold. Due to this extreme winding essence gold's purity still not being the best, it would be approximately 100 million liang apiece when converted to gold. This was only 500 million, and add on the other messes, he actually could barely come up with 1 billion. However, the auction's owner simply did not value the other pieces of trash, so it was bought away like this by a great cultivator. Little sister, what does your child and mother-linked heart's needles need for its upgrade to 2-star? Su Xing asked in Suan. Turning his head, he discovered the girl had suddenly separated without a trace. Liangshan was stunned, having also not seen this. Just as Su Xing was about to use Star Crest reaction, he suddenly saw An Suan run out from inside an alley, carrying an extra little girl upon her chest. Big brother. You, what is this? Su Xing looked at the little lowly in An Suan's embrace, 7 or 8 years of age, with pink hair. She had on an elaborate skirt, and she wore a bow and a red scarf. Pink and cute, she had a pair of large, innocent and shining eyes, as if she was a doll. She seems to have wandered away from her family. Little sister somewhat did not have the heart to leave her be. And Suan said apologetically. Su Xing smiled. And Suan's identity was the divine physician, one of a kindly disposition. For her to do this, Su Xing was not surprised at all. Little girl, what's your name? Su Xing slightly smiled and asked. I'm called Chise Sakura. 2. The little lowly blinked, a completely unguarded mentality. He feared a lollipop was enough to lure her away, and such a small girl not becoming lost was strange. Whoever her parents were, they truly were not careful. However, What made Su Xing curious was the words that the little loli said, which unexpectedly was the language of cherry blossoms. It was basically the same as the Japanese language from Su Xing's previous world. Chise Sakura, not a bad name. What about your parents? Su Xing asked afterwards. And Suan and Yanizhan showed shocked expressions. Big brother, you can understand the language of cherry blossoms? Su Xing naturally could. Hearing Su Xing's words, the little loli happily spoke up, and Su Xing more or less understood her words. This little loli named Chise Sakura came out with Aunt Monxiang, 3, however, that Monxiang woman truly was very irresponsible to let her go out first. Let's go back and help you look. Right, what does she look like? Su Xing asked. The little girl hugged Suan, her hand brushing past her hair. Aunt Monxiang has pretty purple hair, very pretty eyes and is very gentle to Sakura-chan, and this place is very big. Chio Sakura buried her head into Suan's bosom and rubbed with all her might, making Su Xing whisper, fuck. Suan shot her a rebuking glance, slightly blushing, somewhat embarrassed as she looked at Su Xing's purple hair and a very big chest. Her traits actually were very easy to find. As Su Xing thought this, he walked into a remote pathway in the sea. The serene seawater slapped against the reef, and the sakura trees to the side shivered in the cold wind. Master! Watch out! Yanizhan suddenly tightly clenched her fists. The group stopped their march, and several shadows pounced towards them at high speed. Aunt Monxiang said they are bad people. Chise Sakura showed fear. The newcomers were more than 10 in number, wearing a fierce and toothy devil mask that would frighten children. They wore black clothes, their hands holding double sabers and the like. Ghost martial cultivators. Suan cried out in alarm. So it turns out these are the Fallen Blossoms Ghost Kingdom's renowned ghost martial cultivators. Su Xing nodded. Hand her over to us and nothing will happen to you here. A ghost martial cultivator wearing a red devil mask coldly spoke. Su Xing knew that lost little lolas that randomly came from the road would always bring with them a string of troubles. So many of you to capture one little girl, are you still men? Su Xing said. The ghost martial cultivators circled them, the edges of the saber glinting with a sharp light. I will say it once more, hand her over to us, and you may leave. The red ghost martial cultivator this time used his most extensive Chinese dialect to shout. If we do not do this. Yanizhan's vermilion eyes had a cold light. Su Xing did not even need to order the warm-hearted her, and she would not hand over a girl too weak to stand in the wind into the hands of a group of queer uncles. Then die. The ghost martial cultivator dropped these words, and seemingly like an illusion, a deep darkness shrouded Su Xing and the group's surroundings. Starlight could not be seen and the seawater had disappeared. Even the traces of the vaguest shadows were unable to be grasped, an expanse of the most pure darkness. The legendary ghost martial cultivators would use every sort of ghost arts, and seeing it now, it was exceptional as expected. The sounds in the darkness gathered together, and 7, 8 ghost martial cultivators rushed over. These ghost martial cultivators' training was natural, seemingly like a demon. Their strange body techniques and speed continually were what cultivators most dreaded, however, Su Xing remained unmoved. He closely used divine intent to protect Suan so as to avoid any sneak attack mounted by these randomly appearing and disappearing ghost martial cultivators. And for the mission to slay these ghost martial cultivators, Yanizhan naturally accepted without the slightest hesitation. 2 chilly weapons slashed downwards, which Yanizhan avoided by tilting her body. Her body was wedged between their attacks such that even her hair found it hard to pass through the danger zone, seriously a hair's breadth. Yanizhan's bearing was skillful and dexterous. Easily straightening herself, she arrived between the 2 ghost martial cultivators, and her left and right hands simultaneously seized their weapon hands. Her fist technique split muscle and ground bone, and before they heard 2 cracks, the 2 ghost martial cultivators had let go of their weapons. The long sabers had not yet fallen to the ground. Yanizhan's next move was an attack. Her fists waved, and one cold and one warm meandering Pisces flashed on her hands in the darkness. The fantastic power made the two ghost martial cultivators' bodies involuntarily fly backwards at 90 degrees, violently into an additional 3 people, and the 5 of them bumped each other into a single jumbled mess. Completely not pursuing and attacking, at the time the weapons were practically fallen onto the ground, Yanizhan's 2 hands lifted high into the sky. She turned her body to block the pincer attack slash of the ghost martial cultivators' swift sabers, splashing sparks. The ghost martial cultivators of the Falling Blossoms Ghost Kingdom deserve to be described as the demons among demons, regardless of cultivation or sword chant. They were all entirely different from the cultivators Su Xing had previously seen. Their cultivation methods were strange, inferior, and sinister. They practically moved towards a fatal area to attack, just like vipers in the darkness. Each and every attack was on the human body's weakest joints. Yanizhan felt 2 tremendous forces rolling towards her. Wielding sabers, there immediately was another attack. Within the darkness, sharp fireworks revealed a sight. A bone-chilling cold was threading together. 2 ghost martial cultivator braved the yet-to-be-extinguished fires on their bodies, resisting the pain to fight for time, using courage to make up the difference in battle strength. They wanted to inhibit Yanizhan. Ghost kill magic circle. 5, they heard a sharp yelp. 5 ghost martial cultivators once again grabbed sabers and attacked. The cold light of the cutting edges instantly came over. What they were experts in were the most simple and straightforward, lethal blade kills. And this kind of style also made them possess even more excellent close-quarters killing experience. They trapped Yanizhan within, attempting to break through Yanizhan's defenses. It was just that the one they bumped into was the skillful star wanderer Yanqing. To break through the girl's boxing defenses, 5 ghost martial cultivators were very far from enough. Chop off her arms and legs. A ghost cultivator grit his teeth and loudly roared. Falling Blossoms Martial Kingdom's ghost martial cultivators believed in demons among demons, always possessing a life pledge mentality. Although courage was worthy of respect, to think of defeating Yanizhan was a bit too pale. If they compared battle experience, the Yanizhan whose close-quarters boxing power among the Liangshan Maidens 108 stars was number 1 absolutely was entirely worthy of the title of tyrannical. She had not been trapped within the katanas for more than half a minute when her boxing became a mirage. Darkness was completely incapable of covering the girl's sense of sound. Raising a star energy that was seemingly nothing, she wrapped around and trapped the fierce sabers closing in from all directions. Yanizhan was calm and composed, forming a swirling cutting edge that was like a thread between her palms. Unconsciously, every time the saber light struck, Yanizhan concentrated on the cutting edge of her palms, which bit into the opponent's offensive, and the not at all incorporeal winding thread also slowly showed its purpose. Every ghost cultivator vaguely felt something was wrong. Their accustomed sword swing movements began to become heavy, a burden that was as if someone had tied a large stone to the tip of their blades. With every swing, this sort of uncomfortable feeling was even more clear. The muscles on their arm was bound more and more tightly. To maintain the swing speed of their blades, they needed to exhaust the strength of every inch of muscles up and down their whole body. It's star energy. Look out! The ghost martial cultivators were alarmed and promptly shouted. Yanizhan lifted her indifferent lips into a hook, and her figure glinted instantly. Between the ups and downs of her boxing, the cutting edge shot in all directions. The ghost martial cultivators spared no effort in howling loudly, yet they realized the heavy fetters pulled tight around their bodies immediately lightened greatly. An indescribable, uneasy light feeling. In a split second, she had firmly trapped all the ghost martial cultivators' hands. No matter how they struggled, they were incapable of breaking free from the pressure. Suddenly, it would disappear without a trace. They lost the burden, but they could not help but raise every katana high above their heads. Their 2 legs stood on tiptoe, as if their bodies were in a deep sea of decompression, where every part of their bodies was about to float up. Then an irrevocable crack appeared. The ghost martial cultivators opened their eyes wide and looked at the scene unfolding before them. Liangshan had already set her palms, and a small, bloody hole sunk deeply into the stomachs of all the ghost martial cultivators, as if penetrated by the 5 fingers of a closed fist, but those 5 fingers easily broke through the ghost martial cultivators' defenses. It was just like the hearts under the bloody holes were ripped apart. Star General. At least, someone discovered this fact, but it was too late. The darkness was stripped away, revealing a resplendent starlight. Liangshan drew back her hands, indifferent, as if nothing had ever happened. That devil mask of the red ghost martial cultivator appeared even more malevolent, the eyes beneath the mask issuing a cold light. Star General. The ghost martial cultivators present each retreated. Even if they were in the Falling Blossoms Ghost Kingdom, Star General's renown was like that of supernatural beings. Compared to these fiend stars, ghost martial cultivators demon among demons appeared only so. Why would you Star Masters and Star Generals care about our Falling Blossoms Kingdom's affairs? The lead ghost martial cultivator voice sunk. Admirable people and exemplary deeds do not differentiate nationalities. Su Xing laughed. Do not think ghost martial cultivators' capabilities are just this. Today, we will let you bury your corpses here. The red ghost martial cultivators shouted, and the remaining ghost martial cultivators read incantations. Their bodies turned into shadows, unexpectedly dissolving into the night. This time, Su Xing was no longer neglectful. The second wave of sneak attacks was just like a clump of approaching, pouncing ghostly shadows. What was different from his expectations was that the attack in the darkness was far from being as simple as he imagined. Nearly at the same time, the killers in the darkness simultaneously launched an attack against Su Xing completely hidden within the dark, even their breathing that seemed to disappear and cease to exist let them seemingly vanish. These illusory shadows became a method of confusion and the greatest concealed protection, and even during the attack, they had no traces. They entirely had reason to be convinced that under their combined assault, any enemy would absolutely be a dismembered body the next moment. The sound of the cutting edges slicing open the atmosphere filled the space. This time, a portion of the ghost martial cultivators wound around Liangshan, and the rest of the ghost martial cultivators attacked Su Xing. They also knew that to kill a Star General, they first of all had to kill the Star Master. Afterwards, the Star General could only let them slaughter her. It was just that they thoroughly underestimated Su Xing's capabilities. In a close-quarters battle between star cultivators, he definitely held an even more superior position. As far as the Su Xing that had neither sword chant nor top-notch artifacts and magic weapons was concerned, the current ghost martial cultivator's assault matched his expectations. Although he had completely lost the traces of their attacks and presences, relying on his battle instinct premonitions, his figure suddenly swiftly retreated. Just like that, he broke away from their assault and simultaneously threw out the Origin Heaven Will he had just obtained. The Origin Heaven Will swelled without warning. The gear revolved in ensuing surroundings, emitting a golden starlight, forming a tightly wrapped defense. It made the sneak-attacking ghost martial cultivators helplessly recoil backwards, and the other ghost martial cultivators did everything they could to pursue and attack. Each pitch-black weapon simultaneously emitted and took in black saber light, unexpectedly unleashing full power to kill Su Xing instantly by all means. Su Xing's finger moved, and an intertwined branch sword appeared in hand. This small sword's tip was threatening, cleaving at the screen of darkness. Under Su Xing's chanting, it suddenly plunged in. A shattering sound came from within the darkness, as did a moan, and cold floated over through the air. A ghost cultivator's brain had been penetrated by green light, and immediately afterwards, the green light arbitrarily wandered under Su Xing's will, and there was yet another long, blood-curdling scream. Several ghost martial cultivators successively entered the trailing dust. It's a magic weapon. The ghost martial cultivators were shocked. When he was controlling the intertwined branch sword to kill, Su Xing at this time also calmly went about this task unhurriedly amidst the chaos. Those extremely mighty cutting edges appeared to be incomparably slow before his eyes. The innate Bagua escape techniques wandered in the midst of several ghost martial cultivators, with a pattern to advance retreat, neither rushed nor slow. The ghost martial cultivator's seemingly swift and fierce attacks slipped past Su Xing's sides by a hair's breadth every time, always unable to connect. A fist raised a violent and strong gust, as if every movement possessed a kind of indescribable courage, seemingly spurring the entire space to rebellion. A ghost martial cultivator finally broke through, leaning forward on his flying sword, but what awaited him was Su Xing's nimble evasion and his deadly, heavy fist. His neck was very cleanly broken. Su Xing all of a sudden slowed his movements. Along with the progress of the battle, his fingers emitted a faint light ray of purple thunder, swaying back and forth as if carrying a heavy object. The arms of the ghost martial cultivators seemed to incessantly swing about. The group was very anxious, yet they did not have the slightest bit of wiggle room. Following the swaying of Su Xing's palms, they swayed along, as if they were having a nightmare. Suddenly, Su Xing's palms fiercely dropped, and the bodies of the ghost martial cultivators simultaneously shook. Pu-pu-pu, muffled echoes continuously sounded out in the air. Su Xing carried a cold smile on his face, and he leaned his body slightly to the side, his legs stepping in a mysterious pace. He leisurely strolled between and passed by them. His fingers slid past in the void, and the spiderweb-like purple thunder strings were scattered freely into the darkness. He abruptly tightened his 10 fingers, drew in his palms, and along with Su Xing's gestures, his 5 fingers shot out a net-like purple-colored thunderlight. These thunderlights wandered like electric snakes, and under Su Xing's control, they scattered in all directions, grabbing all of the ghost martial cultivators' bodies like sharp claws. Blooming water divine thunder blossomed in the night. All the ghost martial cultivators immediately lost their breath and fell onto the ground, having already met a violent end under the divine thunder. Divine thunder! The red-masked ghost martial cultivators shouted aloud, turning around to flee. How could Su Xing and Liangshan let him go? At this time, a girl walked out from within an alley. Seeing from head on the devil mask, she immediately was frightened. Not good. Su Xing thought. The red ghost martial cultivator's figure flit by, and the edge of his blade pressed against the side of the girl's neck. He laughed evilly, if you want to do a good deed, then fuck off. Otherwise, I will slit open her throat. Ah! The girl's complexion was deathly pale. Su Xing, please save me. How does she know me? Su Xing stared blankly. And Suan and Liangshan cast expressions of astonishment and doubt. When the ghost martial cultivator saw this, he was even more pleased with himself. So you know this person. This is even better. Hand that girl over to me, otherwise I will kill her. Fuck. Who are you? Su Xing said. How could this woman be all boobs but no brains? What was she doing calling out his name at this time? The other had even thought they were rather close. I am Kong, 3, my grandfather is the Taoist Sung Jing. He called me to come find you. The girl's flowery expression lost its color. This time, Su Xing hesitated. What was it that this old man had nothing better to do than call for his own granddaughter to find him? Quickly hand her over to me, or else I will kill her. The ghost martial cultivator's blade edge already began to stir. What did this count as? Su Xing glanced at Chise Sakura, then looked again at that Kong. He asked to make certain, are you truly the Taoist Sung Jing's granddaughter? Fucker, hurry and hand her over to me. The ghost martial cultivator angrily said. Su Xing secretly gathered a blooming water divine thunder, his mind rapidly devising countermeasures. It would be better to let Sakura-chan go with him in order to not hurt that big sister. Chise Sakura shyly said. Forget that she was but 7 or 8 years old, her heart was contrarily and unexpectedly kind. When she said this, Su Xing was even more unwilling. His mind thought, that since Suan was here anyways, even if the throat was slit, she would not die. It would only hurt just that little bit. Ah! Suan suddenly shouted in surprise. Su Xing turned around to look and was immediately stupefied. He saw Chise Sakura had closed her eyes, but her forehead had a purple gorgeous crest flash. As this crest circulated, a faint purple light floated. This was exactly the characteristic star crest after a Star Master and Star General signed. Star Master. Ah! When the Ghost Martial Cultivator saw this, he abruptly threw Kong down and pounced towards Chise Sakura. Just at this moment, a purple light lifted past his body. Taking a woman for a hostage. Ghost Martial Cultivators are indeed the scum of society. A cold voice suddenly sounded. Bang! The Ghost Martial Cultivator heavily fell onto the ground. The leg of a woman stepped on his body. She swung what was in her hand, beheading the Ghost Martial Cultivator. This unforeseen event transpired in the blink of an eye. Su Xing was astonished as he looked at her arrival. Liangshan clenched his fists, already completely guarding in front of Su Xing, Aunt Monxiang. When Chise Sakura saw that woman, she drew back her lips in a smile. Aunt Monxiang. This was that nanny that set down the little girl without permission. Su Xing looked at her. This woman was even more capable and mature than he had imagined, with extremely gorgeous purple hair, a pair of amber eyes. When her brows creased, she was filled with a sharpness. When she smiled, she brimmed with maternal love. She was draped in a magnificent robe, and what was alluring was that she did not wear a bodice. She had just a red armor belly band, 5, as protection with her snow-white skin laid bare. Her slender thighs were covered with purple stockings and red shorts. Su Xing estimated that chest to be a 37D at the minimum, truly violently surging waves not just in name, but also in reality. Her whole body emitted a perfume-like fragrance, and that aroma floated 100 meters. 6. What made Su Xing sense in his mind was that purple star crest on the woman's forehead, which unexpectedly mutually reflected with Chise Sakura's Star General. This answer really made Su Xing too shocked, much more startled than when he originally saw the lowly and Shota combo of Bao Xiaoyu and Han Yu. The woman in front of him had a bold and powerful imposing air. The star weapon clutched in her hand was concealed in a sheet of wind, its form unable to be discerned, but judging from that sharp movement just now, her martial arts were considerably formidable. This leader Ghost Martial Cultivator simply could not react. "You're a Star General?" Su Xing asked. The woman raised the star weapon in her hand. Liangshan and Ensuan completely did not hesitate to assume attack stances. Aunt Monxiang, Big Brother Su Xing is a good person. Chise Sakura hastily said. Monxiang hefted the weapon concealed by the wind. Su Xing heard before some star generals that did not want to expose their identities often would conceal their symbolic star weapons, but some would conceal with the effects of their tools, like Monxiang, who had forged the Wind Concealment Divine Stone, 7, into her weapon. This could hide the weapon's shape, and the edges of the wind could even make the weapon's attacks even sharper. However, it had a cost. In all other aspects, the star weapon would greatly lose power. But judging from the glittering stars in the wind, this star weapon was shockingly 2-star. Thank you for just now. Monxiang's smile was very benevolent. You are too careless, unexpectedly not concerned about your own Star Master. Su Xing shook his head. Furthermore, she is only this small. Only then did Su Xing remember to scout out her cultivation, which was Stardust late stage and awfully weak, as expected. However, for a Star Master at only Stardust late stage, this woman displayed such violence, so it seemed this was a powerful Star General. Those Ghost Martial Cultivators wanted to mount a sneak attack. Your servant was careless. The woman's eyes had a trace of cold light. What remuneration would you like? No need. Protecting such a cute little girl is a given. It's just that you had better somewhat prepare for the star duels in the future. Su Xing reminded her, honestly somewhat displeased she had dragged a 7, 8-year-old little girl into these cruel star duels. Sakura-chan won't separate from Aunt Monxiang. Chise Sakura puffed her cheeks. Your servant naturally knows. Monxiang nodded, apologies for today's matters. Big brother, big sister, come to Kyoto, 8, in the future. Sakura-chan will take you along to play. Chise Sakura blinked her adorable and big eyes. Su Xing nodded. Manxiang shook her head as she carried Chise Sakura and leapt away. Even if it was with Chise Sakura's entire face, the surging waves could not be covered. This was the first time Su Xing saw such a sexily dressed star general. This elder sister seems to have lots of motherly love. And Suan piped up. Her martial arts are very formidable. Yan Yizhen said. Su Xing put away his train of thought, and his gaze returned to the panicked girl, Kong. The girl was scared stupid where she was, having nearly died from fright just now. You are called Kong, right? Whatever things happen in the future, calm down a bit? Su Xing asked. The girl continuously nodded her head. Recalling the purpose she came for, she took out two distinct items to hand over to Su Xing. One was a conical bullet, copper gold in color, and it seemed to be very ordinary. Father said that this bullet was found from within a ruin. Having been so long, it may perhaps be more useful when used with that thing of yours. There was also a work that was specially introduced, the forging of conical projectiles. Inside were recorded the forging of every type of conical bullets from ancient times to present. Although conical bullets were far from comparison to talismans, sometimes, they could display usefulness at critical moments. Seeing that gun of Su Xing's required bullets, the Taoist Sung Jing actually very generously gifted them to him. Please thank him for me. Su Xing smiled. I shall leave now. Kong looked at the corpses everywhere and quickly departed, still somewhat panic-stricken. With this encounter, Su Xing did not revive his delight of Kagoshima Market Square's nightlife. He turned back his head and said to the two beauties, "Let's go back." Most high path, 3 clarities field a sea of clouds was faintly discernible, and the immortal's peaks gathered superior spirit chi. An elegant man with a majestic appearance stood atop the mattress-like summit, but his attire was rather strange. A white undershirt without wearing any outerwear, that pair of eyes as simple and elegant as chrysanthemums ignored the boundless fog on this mountain, ignored this spiritual scenery, ignored this azure dragon territory's most spiritual immortal's field. He merely gazed at a girl of 14, 15, or 16 beneath a tree. The girl wore a red skirt, with her manner appearing delicate and graceful. A pair of slender white hands at this moment clasped a cyan robe. Her hand held a thin needle, piercing beautifully, deftly flipping and flying. A look showed it was the outerwear the man had taken off. A green rainbow splashed over. The man raised his head and saw an elegant-looking youth with eyes like clear stars descend before him. That youth aimed a glance at the girl sewing beneath the tree, his expression a tranquility that completely lacked ripples. "Senior brother Zhenyuan, if your robes are damaged, you can exchange them. The Jade Clothing Palace, too, has many treasures that are certainly much better than this ordinary robe." The youth deferentially spoke. Who could have thought that the man wearing only a white undershirt before him was surprisingly the one known as the Azure Dragon Territory's #1 star master, Xia Zhenyuan. "She likes it, so I leave it to her. Some things cannot be changed out." Xia Zhenyuan's temperament was refined, his expression flat as water. Qing Xian, 3, really does not understand. Why would senior brother sign a contract with her? The man asked. The Azure Dragon Territory called Xia Zhenyuan the #1 star master. One reason came from his strength, and the other judged from the background behind him, so much so that people felt the Azure Dragon Territory's #1 school's stunning genius certainly had to be a fierce star of outstanding martial force. However, these people's fantasies returned to being fantasies. Who would have thought things would be completely the opposite? Everyone says star generals protect the contractor, yet Zhenyuan actually wants to do the opposite. Xia Zhenyuan lightly smiled. Qing Xian was blank. He covered his lips, not speaking. Junior brother Bing Qing Xian, what is the matter this time? Xia Zhenyuan smiled and asked. Bing Qing Xian then remembered the purpose he came here for. The purple star grade birth outline already is about to begin. The headmaster wants to let Qing Xian invite senior brother to go on a trip to the most clear hall, to discuss the matter of plundering the purple star birth outline. It would be best to leave everything to the headmaster. I shall inform the headmaster. Bing Qingxian stepped onto Swordlight, glanced at the young girl, and inwardly shaking his head, the green light shook, instantly disappearing into the horizon. At this time, the girl beneath the tree waved her hand at him. Xie Zhenyuan made a shallow smile, paced around and then walked towards her. The Three Clarities field, with its windless sea of clouds, was tranquil as if nothing had ever happened. Su Xing, this young lady really missed you. Inside the Immortal's abode, Lin Yingmei, Wu Xinjie and Shi Yuan had finally returned. Upon meeting, the thief star emotionally rushed straight at him. Su Xing embraced her, feeling the warmth of the girl's lovable body. Shi Yuan this time raised her head and kissed Su Xing, stealing a march on Wu Xinjie to use a passionate kiss to let out her feelings, leaving Wu Xinjie helpless. When it came to her turn, Wu Xinjie actually also radiated passion all around. The two's saliva became a thread, and the girl's charming eyes were like silk, making the sisters to the side stupefied. When he faced Lin Yingmei, the girl nevertheless did not let herself go like they did. Young master, please be a bit more dignified in front of the sisters. Lin Yingmei was actually nervous. Su Xing chuckled. Blocking her waist with a hug, only afterwards did he ask, how was this month? A bumper harvest. Let this young lady think, the Heavenly Master Ruins, South Garrison Royal Tomb, Wind Spirit Mountain, Second Dragon Mountain, there were 15 altogether. Shi Yuan replied in high spirits. This is some of the harvest. Wu Xinjie waved her hand. Several dozen items floated in the air. There were artifacts, talismans, pills, concentrates, ores, and everything else that could be thought up of. This galaxy artifact is called Mountain Breaking Engraving, 5, and there is also this Green Spirit Jade Tortoise Pill, 6. Wu Xinjie introduced these one by one, and the things that came from this ruin naturally were considerable. The Mountain Breaking Engraving was a galaxy middle stage artifact, with destructive power that was terrifying. Whenever it was raised, wind and thunder would be brilliant, and all mountains would topple over. It was an extremely powerful artifact used to break defenses. The Green Spirit Jade Tortoise Pill reportedly used the ancient spirit beast Green Spirit Jade Tortoise's soul in its forging. It was a tool refinement master's panacea. After ingestion, the tool refinement heart flame would advance several grades, and it so happened that it could be used to nurture Su Xing's heavenly water heart flame. And there was also that. What interested Su Xing the most was still those secret works. However, these secret works were all soul techniques, escape techniques, and sword chants, which had no use whatsoever to the current Su Xing. Last were the talismans. Territory-breaking talisman. Su Xing was stunned. A supreme grade talisman, it can break any forbid dance and magic circle. Shi Yuan giggled. Only naturally a good item. Su Xing smiled. Possessing the territory-breaking talisman, that meant he could enter and leave the forbid dances of the whole world as he pleased. This talisman's value was more than 100 billion. He never expected there unexpectedly would even be 5 copies of the territory-breaking talisman. Tidying things up a bit, Wu Xinjie smiled, congratulations to young lord on advancing to galaxy stage. What sword chant has young lord prepared to learn? What do you think? Su Xing asked. Galaxy cultivators were able to learn sword chant abilities, and this was a power cultivators were required to learn. However, Liangshan continent's sword chants were innumerable, and their levels were not all the same. Some were good, some were bad. Su Xing currently had on him the Heavenly Spirit Earthly Fiend Purple Star 5 Elements Sword, and the 108 Overturned Qiankuan Sword. The former was an immemorial sword chant while the latter could be considered the Four Styles School's supreme grade sword chant. However, this type of powerful sword chant typically required designated flying swords with custom fitting to the user in order to bring out even greater powers. Unfortunately, to refine these flying swords was not a simple matter. Su Xing could learn other sword chants, but this approach to sword chants would make him fall behind other people. After experiencing Zhao Hanyan's 72 outer void flying immortal's sword and the holy lord of draconic demons whatever 9 phantasms 10 banes capital demon sword, Su Xing naturally could not learn a sword chant with a high level, or else he would be in the old situation of being at a disadvantage the next time he encountered them. 7. It was just that Su Xing did not have any sort of background. Even if this 4 styles school was not a declining great sect, a supreme grade sword chant required someone to think of a solution. Xinjie this time wanted to help young lord find a few legendary sword chants, but none were suitable. Wu Xinjie sighed. This doesn't matter. Su Xing said. And Suan at this time said, little sister has a way. What way? Everyone curiously looked at the divine physician. This heavenly spirit earthly fiend purple star 5 elements sword is very good. Use the 9 types of solar, lunar, astral, draconic, metallic, wooden, aquatic, flame and earthen to assemble it, but each type can independently form a sword array. This type of 5 elements sword is assembled in succession. Big brother can learn and finish gathering the sword at the same time. And Suan said. 8. Wu Xinjie suddenly understood and nodded. This is a way. The heavenly spirit earthly fiend purple star 5 elements sword was classified as an immemorial sword chant. Even if one type alone was brought out, it was not inferior to Liangshan's top-notch sword arts. But there was one very big problem. The materials to forge the 5 elements sword are too demanding. Lin Yingmei wrinkled her brow. Yes, young lord actually can forge a wood type, but only one. He would still be missing 11 swords. 9. Wu Xinjie was very worried. The 5 elements sword materials were rare and priceless. Even if he forged the wood type, for the other 11 swords, he perhaps would need more than 100 billion liang of gold in order to buy putua black bamboo sand. And those evil suppressing gem bamboos you could not purchase them even if you had more gold. Even if these rare and precious items were not mentioned, it was just a 9th rank heaven-tearing gold dragon that Su Xing currently could not attain to forge the metallic type flying sword. Money, money. Su Xing did not expect that the several billion he had was still this poor and destitute. Forget it, let's think of a way again in the future. Since the heavenly spirit earthly purple star 5 elements sword at hand, heaven always never bars our way. 10. Su Xing said, can't we still use the purple star writ to create 2 immortals' abodes? At the time 2 are opened, let's see whether or not the land of the immortals' abode will send anything. It can't be said for sure if there would be evil suppressing gem bamboo. Since it could send a life-extending peach, evil suppressing gem bamboo was not out of the question. Wu Xinjie also thought so, but the purple star writ pendant had a restriction on establishing immortals' abodes. The distance between each other was required to be 10 million li or greater. She feared that only the Black Turtle territory could wood, and this was yet another thorny affair. I have several things to gift you all. Chatting a bit, Su Xing took out 3 items. First of all, he gave Silver Blade to Wu Xinjie. Young lord. Wu Xinjie was stunned, and even Lin Yingmei was blank. She naturally knew the importance of this strange item to Su Xing. From the first time they met, she saw Su Xing always carefully cherished it. Silver Blade is not very useful to me right now. Xinjie, you take it for self-protection. Although this isn't a star weapon, you can use it. Using your ranked 3rd star energy to use Silver Blade is for the best. Last time at the Grindstone Mountain, you used it very well. Su Xing smiled. Xinjie cannot have such an important thing. Wu Xinjie shook her head. Is it more important than your own safety? This deliberate burst of Su Xing's actually made Wu Xinjie somewhat moved. Wu Xinjie no longer declined. Carefully taking Silver Blade, she was happy from the bottom of her heart. Loving it too much to part from it, the other sisters were quite envious. Su Xing then took out a pair of green feather boots. He had used the previous green-feathered storm's feathers to specially refine them. Light as goose feathers, swift as a gale, to a robber as nimble as the thief's star, this simply was an outstanding tool. This was even the first item that Su Xing refined after becoming a tool refinement master. Shi Yuan particularly cherished these. Lastly, it was Lin Yingmei's turn. Young master, no need for your servant. Lin Yingmei shook her head. Yingmei, I'm afraid you must receive this. Su Xing took out the item. It was none other than the material Lin Yingmei needed to advance her star weapon to 2-star, 6 pieces of daybreak frost and snow essence and 40 liang of relic blade sand. Young master, you collected it all? Lin Yingmei quaked. The daybreak frost and snow essence certainly was not easy to find. Master specially went on a trip to the Kagoshima market square to help Yingmei do so, and he spent many funds. Yan Yizhen opened her mouth. Your servant definitely will protect young master to the death. Lin Yingmei's expression was firm. Su Xing laughed aloud. I always say this, but I truly do not wish to let you protect me. Yingmei's star weapon has reached 2-star actually very quickly. Shi Yuan sighed. What are you still missing, tell me. Let's go next time, and we'd better advance to 2-star before the purple star grade birth outline begins. Su Xing said. Then Xinjie indeed will trouble young lord. Wu Xinjie covered her smile. Then, they chatted a bit about their experiences this past month. When Su Xing all of a sudden recalled that Wu Song, he said to Lin Yingmei, Yingmei, I have some things I want to talk to you about. What does young master wish to say? You girls won't mind if I have a chat alone with Yingmei? Su Xing asked the beauties. Of course we will not mind. Yingmei is very shy, so we will not be to the side. Young lord, you must take good care of Yingmei. For the past month, little sister Yingmei has been a very big help. Wu Xinjie ambiguously said. Lin Yingmei was somewhat embarrassed. Su Xing rolled his eyes, don't scare Yingmei, it's just proper business. Lin Yingmei nodded. Young master, is something the matter? Su Xing thought for a moment, then said, Yingmei, do you know Wu Song? Lin Yingmei showed a trace of surprise. Young master, why are you asking this? Suddenly, the panther head's expression became grim. Is young master saying she was hostile to you? Seeing from Lin Yingmei's expression, the relationship between the two was not shallow. Su Xing smiled and said, on the contrary, she actually helped me once. Su Xing then briefly spoke about his encounter with the Holy Lord of Draconic Demon. The danger within was naturally omitted without mention, and he actually admired that cold and elegant Wu Song. Only then did Lin Yingmei's expression apparently relax. She said complexly, your servant never expected she would already have obtained her star beast. Young master had better still be careful of her. What's the relationship between you two? Su Xing curiously asked. Wu Song and your servant can be considered intimate friends. Some time after the star duels commenced, we became close friends. Because your servant and she were of that sort of temperament, saying this, Lin Yingmei's tone slightly stopped. Su Xing knew her meaning and finished for her, that doesn't want to sign contracts. Lin Yingmei went, She continued, before your servant met young master, this was indeed so. Perhaps she feels your servant betrayed her, however, your servant asks that young master be at ease. If Wu Song dares to be hostile to young master, Yingmei pledges her life to fight with her to the end. The girl's tone was cold, completely without the least bit of falsity. Su Xing's heart shivered when he saw that sort of resolute expression, for this type of half-contained sentiment would move anyone. Su Xing approached her, gazing downwards toward Lin Yingmei. The girl's gaze showed a trace of panic. What, are you afraid to see me after 1 month of not seeing each other? Su Xing joked. Lin Yingmei shook her head. Yingmei, did you miss me? Su Xing made a thin smile. Came the soft, almost inaudible answer. Really? Your servant, as young master's star general, ought to be concerned about young master. Lin Yingmei puffed out her chest, righteous and imposing. Su Xing was happy. His hand felt the girl's cheek, a teasing posture. Lin Yingmei's expression was somewhat nervous. If other people saw this scene, perhaps they would doubt their own eyes. Liangshan continent's great and famous majestic star panther head unexpectedly was showing a girly blush of embarrassment. Although it was slight, it was extremely arousing, making Su Xing's mind helplessly sweep away. Unable to restrain his emotions, he said, I really missed you, too, Yingmei. Do you know what happens next? The sisters are still outside. Wu, Lin Yingmei's words had not fell when Su Xing already lowered his head and kissed the girl's soft red lips. Lin Yingmei went stiff, but both her hands somewhat helplessly grabbed Su Xing's clothes. Under the provocations of Su Xing's tongue, she could not help but kiss back. The sound of tongues sucking resounded inside the immortal's abode. After the French kiss ended, Lin Yingmei's air was like gossamer, both her cheeks a dizzy red, a strand of thread-like saliva hanging from each other's tongues. Since you are such intimate sisters, if you two have a falling out, I certainly would be in pain. Su Xing said. Young master is what is most important. Lin Yingmei replied. Actually, there is a way to get things done once and for all. Just let young lord receive that wusong. A charming voice came from outside the immortal's abode. Wu Xinjie evidently heard the two's conversation. With Su Xing's thoughts, the door of the immortal's abode opened, and as expected, he saw several beauties laying in front of the door. At this time, Su Xing and Lin Yingmei still maintained their intimate embrace position. Su Xing's hand was even placed on the girl's upraised butt, which made Shi Yuan open her eyes wide. Su Xing fake coughed and separated from Yingmei. Xinjie, this type of joke isn't allowed. I definitely do not dare receive the tiger fighting wusong. Su Xing was a hypocrite on this. The harm star was cool and elegant without peer. If a man did not have this idea, that would be strange, particularly if they knew that the relationship between her and Lin Yingmei was this good. Su Xing had also thought of this turning an enemy into a friend, but to be able to scare off the Holy Lord of Draconic Demon, this was actually the first time Su Xing did not have confidence. Lin Yingmei's worried brows deeply creased. Clearly, she also did not feel Su Xing could receive and capture her. After the previous generations Wusong ruled Maiden Mountain by force, as she told your servant before, she intends to bring about the forging of her predecessor's 10-star destined weapon. By her disposition, she would rather die than be subject to humiliation. Wu Xinjie was only arbitrarily cracking a joke. She also knew that to become the lord of the previous generation's star duels, if the current Wusong actually signed a contract, it was an absolute disgrace no matter how it was put. Young lord, we should still discuss the matter of the purple star birth outline. It seems there are still a few days before it begins. Su Xing was also preparing for this. Shi Yuan already went to investigate, and Xinjie fears that events are somewhat not too encouraging. Wu Xinjie sighed. What did Yuan discover? Shi Yuan said, this young lady conducted hidden investigations inside several large schools. Half of the current 10 great sects have already reached agreements to cooperate in robbing and killing for the purple star birth outline. Galaxy and above to Supervoid and below will all be present. Supervoid cultivators and below. What about supercluster cultivators? Su Xing wrinkled his brow. This certainly was troublesome. Shi Yuan also showed a vexed expression. Furthermore, these large schools are joining hands with the sects. All scattered star cultivator will keep away at all costs, otherwise, they will be killed without pardon. The biggest trouble is still the supercluster cultivators. Those old monsters will make a move. To snatch the birth outline from under a supercluster cultivator will certainly not be simple. Yan Yizhen's tone was solemn. Yes, Xinjie investigated documents about previous birth outline plunders. Those who obtained the purple star chest all had a common characteristic, and that was all of them were supercluster cultivators. In robbing and killing for the chest, even a star master should not dare to act blindly without thinking. This cannot be helped. The powers of supercluster cultivators currently are too great, far from being something that a second phase star master can contend with. And Suan said. Could it be we are just giving up? Lin Yingmei's brows wrinkled together. And Suan was somewhat anxious. Big brother, this is so dangerous, it would be better to give up. Although the birth treasure outline has recorded the weaknesses of Maiden Mountain star generals, neither is it very important. Suan has also investigated this birth treasure outline, and its usage in previous star duels was not completely advantageous. Even Su Xing was somewhat hesitant. If several dozen supercluster stage cultivators robbed and killed for the chest, he definitely did not have any chances. Particularly, if he exhausted the star energy of a trump card astral treasure the likes of the profound star barrier, he would be without a guarantee even more. Young lord, there is actually no need to be pessimistic. Xinjie has a plan, and we can seize the birth outline. Wu Xinjie laughed. Knowledge star, what means do you have? Lin Yingmei asked. Means Xinjie does have, however, Xinjie is still short of one very important thing. What thing? Everyone curiously asked. A magic weapon that creates victory, one that can let young lord be safe and in good health regardless of whatever attack or force he meets. I'm afraid the profound star barrier won't do. Su Xing shook his head. The profound star barrier is only an earthly fiend-grade astral treasure, insufficient to render young lord safe from any attack or force. Wu Xinjie shook her head. What she needed was something that could be absolutely safe. Does this sort of thing exist? Even if there is a certainty, its background will be great, and we won't necessarily obtain it. Su Xing was helpless. Wu Xinjie winked. Xinjie just happens to know a sister that has it. When the knowledge star said this, the doubtful sisters immediately saw the light, and revealed shocked and suspicious expressions. Don't tell me we're going to find her. But she won't submit. Just who is this? Su Xing was confused. One of the richest people in Liangshan. Wu Xinjie giggled. Don't bring her up. What richest? This young lady sees that she is the stingiest person under all of heaven. Shi Yuan twitched her lips, objecting. She has completely wasted her old reputation. Seeing her say as such, Su Xing was, in fact, even more curious. Su Xing very interestedly looked at these legendary star generals. He was eager to give it a try. Then let's go take a look. Then little sister Yingmei should remain at the Immortal's abode to upgrade her star weapon to 2-star. Little sister Suan should stay also. Too many people going will instead be unsuitable. Lin Yingmei and Suan did not have any opinions. I also won't go. Shi Yuan shook her head. Little Yi and Xinjie shall accompany young lord, then. After confirming, Su Xing then immediately set out. On the road, he inquired with Xinjie the gossip of this richest star general under all of heaven because it seemed the beauties present were seemingly very envious of her reputation. This was ordinarily very rare. Speaking of that star general, not only was she the most enviable of the 108 star maidens, she was actually the most envied in all of the Azure Dragon territory. Because this sister was the sole star general of the 108 generals that could separate herself from star duels regulations, she did not have any military force, yet she was superb on the Maiden Mountain. All of the star maidens would bow to her. If several words were used to describe her, she could be said as such. Wealth equivalent to a nation. 2. Contempt of authority and law. 3. Any star cultivator was like dust in her eyes, not worth a mention. Even if it was the Azure Dragon territory's most powerful Emperor Liang, financial strength, or military force, she could easily spurn them all. She had been publicly accepted as Liangshan's richest person. The 8th generation star generals' accumulated wealth could reportedly cram the 9 dragon seas, Liangshan's largest oceans. If an exact number was needed, in accordance with Liangshan's Suanzi Suanjing, calculating wealth in units of 10,000, 100 million, 10 to the power of 12, 10 to the power of 16, 10 to the power of 20, 10 to the power of 24, 10 to the power of 28, 10 to the power of 32, 10 to the power of 36, 10 to the power of 40, 10 to the power of 44, 10 and amp, 48, 5, if measured according to the uncountable units, her wealth reportedly reached levels of 10 to the power of 28. Using Su Xing's everyday comprehension, that was more than 1 trillion. Su Xing nearly choked. This star general was rather too wealthy. Fortunately, many of the items of Liangshan's cultivators could not be measured with gold. Otherwise, by this sort of astronomical wealth, even directly advancing star weapons to 10 star was but a simple task. Why does this star general have so much money? Su Xing really felt that man to man, this was too excessive. That is because of the second reason, contempt of authority and law. Wu Xinjie smiled. Contempt of authority and law. Yes. Although she is a star general, she will not participate in any generation of star duels. On the contrary, because of her natural hobbies, she is especially interested in engaging in business and hoarding gold. Accumulating over the millennia, it can be well imagined how massive this wealth is. Could it be no one has the idea to fight her? Su Xing felt disbelief when he heard this. It was rather too unfair for this sort of wealthy star general to be so comfortably off. This happens to be the reason we are going to see her, to borrow something. Wu Xinjie grinned. Saying this much, Su Xing suddenly remembered he still did not know just what kind of person this star general was, to unexpectedly be so aloof. Because she is too wealthy, outsiders all like to call her Noblewoman wealth. 6. Noblewoman wealth. Su Xing sweated. Sangzhou, Harsh County Great Circle Mountain, 2, had a great circle castle, which was located deep within the forest. Like a hidden dragon, the city walls encircled it. Like a tiger, the entire Great Circle Castle was an otherworldly existence in Harsh County. The 10 li within was a forbidden area, and what made people astonished was that this castle was forged completely out of gold rock materials. Every sunrise, the thing was a dazzling sight. Great Circle Mountain seemingly was surrounded in an aura, and the commoners down the mountain would all prostrate themselves in deference. The Great Circle Castle's master had been described as Liangshan's wealthiest rich woman. That was correct. She was exactly the noble star, Little Whirlwind Chai Jin. 3. Su Xing was on his riding sword looking at this sort of developed golden city from afar. If he originally half-doubted Wu Xinjie's words, at this moment, he believed nearly completely. The castle that used gold in its creation had a style that was unavoidably too big. The Great Circle Castle's inner 10 li had a forbidden space for bid dance. Su Xing could only set down the flying sword and tread into this Great Circle Mountain. Approximately a moment after, he arrived outside the Great Circle Castle. Standing at close range in front of this castle, it seemed even more exaggerated. Its dazzling gold pierced people's eyes such that they could not be opened. Wu Xinjie entered a warrant talisman, and then they waited outside. If this noble star is so rich, why wouldn't she participate in the star duels? Idle and bored, Su Xing asked Wu Xinjie very confusedly. Several trillion in wealth, although it could not buy first-rate precious items, it could still buy a great majority of things. The so-called enough ants may bite an elephant to death. Accumulating enough persistence, even sand grains could make a tower and did not lose out to a kind of terrifying power. Does young lord know why she would break away from the star duels? Wu Xinjie did not answer, but asked a question in return. Why? That is because her destined star weapon is a red ink iron certificate. 5. Wu Xinjie slightly smiled. Su Xing stared blankly. He naturally had heard of this iron certificate inscribed in red ink. In the water margin, the little whirlwind was the posterity of the first wife of Emperor Shizong, also known as Chai Rong, of the later Zhou. Because of the Qinxiao mutiny, Emperor Taizu of Song made an imperial edict conferring the red ink iron certificate to the Chai family, a gold medal of death exemption. The red ink iron certificate is indeed a super powerful star weapon. Not only can it allow her to break away from the star duels, this astral treasure, 6, has a very big ability that is exactly to defend against any attack in this world. This is too defiant of the natural order. Su Xing was stunned. Wu Xinjie shook her head, countering, this has a price. The price's premise is that she cannot participate in the star duels. If she participates, the red ink iron certificate loses its death exemption ability. Then her destined star weapon naturally loses its usefulness, and without this star weapon, Chai Jin certainly is thoroughly deposed, Su Xing understood clearly. Losing her destined star weapon if she participated in the star duels was a price indeed too great. Even if she used those gold and silver to form a frightening force, it did not have any significance because entering Maiden Mountain would not permit you to bring any random influences inside. What was relied upon was individual ability. Although riches could be otherworldly, when things reached that situation, perhaps it would be a joke. Chai Jin also has a very big hobby, which is that she is very fond of hoarding gold. Whatever it is, she must convert it into gold to hoard. Do not see her as being very wealthy, but as a completely stingy cheapskate. Wu Xinjie giggled. Where did all this wealth come from? Su Xing inquisitively asked. Business engagements. Reportedly, Chai Jin has 50% of the Azure Dragon Territory's gold mines, 20% of its purple gold ore, 5% of its white ore and other many precious stones and stone materials. Besides this, she has many additional stores. Wu Xinjie said, this is also a legend, but it should be right. Actually, this still did not make Su Xing any more amazed. Legend said that Chai Jin the Little Whirlwind was known as the Great Circle. The star cultivators under the banner of the Great Circle was more than 100,000, with weapons and armor at more than 1,000,000. She had relationships with all of the Azure Dragon Territory's 10 great sects, so even the great Liang dynasty was nearly ashamed of its inferiority. If she did not have this special identity as a star general, then perhaps Emperor Liang would be restless. Awesome! Su Xing praised in admiration. To be able to trade gold to this scale truly made him greatly expand his horizons. However, since she has no needs or wants, and the red ink iron certificate is that important to her, would she lend the red ink iron certificate to us? Su Xing was doubtful. Although Chai Jin is stingy to the extreme, can young lord guess what her innate skill known as, help the needy for justice, 7, is? Wu Xinjie could not help but smile. Su Xing guessed that it was probably to lend things, lend money, and the like. The fact and his imagination were about the same. The name of Chai Jin's innate skill was called, Help the Needy for Justice, where the so-called for justice was to be able to lend the red ink iron certificate once and the help the needy was to lend some money to the other party. This kind of innate skill could only be used in each star duel stage once, or else the courtesy of any help to others outside of Help the Needy for Justice would be determined to be participating in the star duels by the Liangshan maiden, thereby stripping away the red ink iron certificate. After hearing Wu Xinjie's words, Su Xing actually was even more curious about how otherworldly this Liangshan maiden was that she could actually even accomplish this. After understanding the gossip of Chai Jin, woman in palace dress walked out of the Great Circle Castle. Her hand held a palace light, and her good-looking face was expressionless. The official has an invitation. Please follow slave servant Yuye. 8, thanks. The three people followed along. Without mentioning the golden bright and dazzling exterior, the interior was also absolutely luxurious. Porcelain, gold bars, ancient texts, household utensils, and more were all priceless. Flying dragons and carved phoenixes, the maids in the castle were like clouds. Su Xing slightly explored, and unexpectedly found their cultivations all to be uniformly galaxy stage. Seeing their dignified bearing, their practiced technique, it was just like they were not all just show. Furthermore, this Yuye maid was galaxy late stage. Su Xing thought, this noblewoman Chai is incredible. If she participated in the star duels, perhaps she would have the status of the master of a sect. If she actually participated, then everything might as well be meaningless. Walking past a room of a spread-out scarlet carpet, Su Xing entered an expansive main hall. Inside the hall, phoenix pillars coiled around, chiseled out of pure gold. Some red-wing tasseled curtains were suspended. With a careful look, these surprisingly were made of fire phoenix feathers. Although its spiritual influence had been lost, the flames were still dazzling. In the middle was a phoenix chair, with only a remarkably beautiful woman laying upon it. That girl had dragon brows and phoenix eyes, white teeth and vermilion red lips. Her long, light purple hair hung in strands over her chest, suspending red precious stones. Her hair was also stuck with herbs, and she wore a water blue and pink 100-pleat shirt revealing her shoulders and cleavage. Her white bodice with gilded edges was exposed to the outside, and it seemed to be an astral treasure. A ring sash inlaid with precious jewels was tied around her waist, her snow-white thighs faintly discernible underneath her long gown. Her feet were white, and her hand held a golden thread feather fan. 9. Her expression was languid, undisciplined, yet she carried a sort of innate respect upon her forehead. The word, queen, seemed to have been made to her measurements. What a peerless beauty! One of Chai Jin's hands played with the fur of a completely black like shadow demon beast laying upon the phoenix chair, her lips seemingly in a smile yet not. Jinji, 10, you can withdraw. 11. It has been very long since I have chatted with my sisters, and 2 of them at that. Chai Jin called out, and the 2 palace-garbed women then deferentially retreated. Ha, noblewoman Chai Jin, you are indeed leisurely and free. Truly, it makes elder sister very envious. Wu Xinjie sat on a chair. Each person has a life, and each has its ups and downs. This palace, 12, is somewhat bored of counting gold every day. Compared to you all who can ascend that maiden mountain, that is what is truly enviable. Since you have come here, let us tell each other our true names. This palace is called Chai Ling, 13, it is better to avoid this Chai Jin, for this palace certainly feels it is displeasing to the ear. The little whirlwind's smile seemed to both exist and not exist. Wu Xinjie and Liangshan also announced their respective names. How extraordinary, to be able to simultaneously sign the Knowledge Star and Skillful Star. Chai Ling stowed the fan. Her slender jade thighs lifted off the couch, and her bare feet curiously walked towards Su Xing due to Chai Ling wearing an exposed bodice, her towering twin peak seemed to want to spill out. These swaying lotus steps shook and shook, waves that were dazzling. What are you called? From which sect? Chai Jin's hand hooked Su Xing's chin. Su Xing took her hand away, hooking onto it himself. This one beneath you is Su Xing, and the unwed we are single. 14. Wu Xinjie laughed, thinking the dallying Su Xing was still inexperienced some. Chai Jin did not mind this sort of appearance of being assailed by a man. Slightly wiping the corner of her mouth, her smile pondered deep meanings. A charmer. Do you have interest in remaining by elder sister's side? Elder sister can let you have glory, splendor, wealth, rank and beautiful women seemingly like clouds. It would be better for you to come with us. We guarantee a lustful night every night, each new climax replaced by another, such that you would wish you were dead. Su Xing chuckled. Wu Xinjie went, pfft, and in her heart said, Su Xing is actually too good at telling stories. Even the Liangshan to the side could not help but slightly smile. Your mouth sure can talk. Chai Ling looked over Su Xing, then once again returned onto the phoenix chair. What business do you have of this palace? You must have come for the purple star birth outline. Precisely. As you have heard, our young master is without a sect or school. These 10 great sects will plunder the birth outline despicably with evil methods, so elder sister wanted to use the red ink iron certificate. Wu Xinjie spoke forthrightly. It cannot be. Your young master is virtueless and incompetent, how could he sign 2 great star generals, especially Yan Qing? You always cannot give your body to a man completely lacking a background. Chai Ling smiled. Liangshan sternly said, Master also is without a school. Slave servant also is willing to serve him. A bright light flashed past Chai Ling's eyes, coincidentally laughing, how interesting. What do you say? Chai Ling, there is no problem, right? This help the needy for justice can only be utilized once in each stage. It would be too pitiful if it was not used in this stage. Wu Xinji said. There is no issue with help the needy for justice, but this palace shall not lend it to people without cause or reason. Chai Ling opened the fan, covering her red lips. Her expression was somewhat crafty. Wu Xinjie had already foresaw this. Calmly, she said, "Little sister, you may speak without hesitation, but we certainly do not have any money. You dare turn to this palace to borrow the red ink iron certificate without money. Knowledge star, you truly can crack a joke." The noble star little whirlwind Chai Ling's attitude was graceful as a civet. She indolently reclined on the phoenix chair. Her expression gazed at Su Xing, indistinctly carrying a trace of eroticism. This palace loves money the most. 100 billion, and this palace shall uphold justice. Chai Ling said. 100 billion? We do not have even 1 billion. Wu Xinjie shook her head. So it is like this. For the sake of elder sister Knowledge Star visiting the Great Circle Castle for sightseeing, then this palace shall give you another chance. We do not have money. Wu Xinjie said. This palace does not want your money, Chai Ling elegantly pointed at Su Xing, carrying a bit of gracefulness and charm. The Great Circle Castle has never had a man stay a night. This palace is actually somewhat lonely. How about letting your man remain at the Great Circle Castle with this palace? Whenever you return this red ink iron certificate, your man shall then be returned to you. This naked request of Chai Ling's truly made Su Xing open wide his eyes. Are you serious? Does this palace seem to be fond of telling jokes? Chai Ling, could it be you feel I am that sort of person who enjoys sensual pleasures while leaving his own women to go risk life and limb? Su Xing furrowed his brow. The little whirlwind replied matter-of-factly, her eyes flashing, the corner of her mouth lifting into a smile. Is this not how it should be? This palace's Great Circle Castle will truly make you wish you were dead. Su Xing coldly chuckled. Little sister Chai Ling, elder sister urges you to not joke any further. Our young master is indeed not as frivolous as you believe. Wu Xinjie was helpless. Chai Ling's eyebrows rose, somewhat displeased. Knowledge star, you are unable to produce 100 billion, and neither are you able to let your man stay. You are making this palace frustrated. This palace is truly uninterested in this type of help the needy for justice without benefit. Could it be that even little sister Chai Ling would waste this opportunity? And is unwilling to spend money? This buying and selling of losses is certainly unlike the business the noble star engages in. Chai Ling's eyebrows rose. She lightly bit her red lips, her hand tenderly stroking the collapsed demon beast, the golden thread feather fan gently dancing. Wu Xinjie was calm and composed, an appearance that showed she planned in advance. Knowledge star, you indeed are eloquent. This palace wants one night. Chai Ling muttered to herself for a moment, then lightly laughed. The Great Circle Castle is honored with the presence of 2 long-lost sisters. It would be more appropriate for this palace to properly receive guests for a night and make a reply once again tomorrow. Wu Xinjie also knew that as far as the stingy noble star was concerned, this already was a very big concession. She nodded and did not object. Chai Ling clapped her hands. Jinji and Yuya entered the main hall, announcing themselves. They saw a group of women dressed in classical golden long gowns walk into the room in a line holding long swords in their hands. They were dressed rather elegantly, and the more than dozen beautiful young girls orderly stood in the hall, truly beautiful women that were like clouds. The legendary skillful star is accomplished in the arts, proficient in all manners of speech, dance, poetry, song and more. Since it is not so easy to have the wanderer honor others with her presence, we wonder how is your sword dance? Care for about the sword dance. Long established since ancient times, the sword served as a weapon dissolved into a dance performance. It could be said to be an extremely clever composition. I shall refuse on little Yi's behalf. Su Xing definitely did not want to let his maid engage in some dance. If she were to dance, it would only be for him alone. Young Lord Su Xing is very angry. Could it be the skillful star does not help her own young master do a few things? 2. You have a request of this palace, yet you do not do anything. This is not good, is it? Chai Ling dully said, her words somewhat threatening. Slave servant shall give master one song. Yanizhan gazed at Su Xing. A pure white guzheng, 3, was placed on the center of the phoenix dances to the heavens hall. Yanizhan sat on the ground, her skirt neatly spread out. When her lily-white hands really moved with spry motions, the maid simultaneously seemingly let her bangs fly. Her vermilion pupils paused, her thumb shook, and suddenly, the string let loose a vibrating resonance. It was as if it returned to those olden times where romance was in the air. The dancing girls crowded Yanizhan's surroundings, taking sword dance positions. The girls began to raise their swords, paced, and moved in a dance. The swords and tassels were firm and gentle perfectly together, full of changes, making the sword dance very lively. They had passed through a long practice, their sword dance posture and movement free, easy, and disciplined. They appeared bright and colorful, their movements swift and nimble. When they were still, their postures were steady, sharp and bright, rich with beauty. Their traveling sword movements were continuous and uninterrupted, like a long and rainbow roaming dragon, head and tail in close succession. They were then also like moving clouds and flowing water, well proportioned with a certain toughness. Not only were the bodies of the matching girls delightful to the eyes, that cold light glinting on the swords was even more like it could kill enemies at any moment. When Yanizhan slowly played the first rippling the string, the hall was enveloped with the vast sound of the instrument. Forget that the maid was cold as ice, she indeed was brimming over with talent. Regarding the guzheng, it was entirely within her element. A great deal of techniques were used by her casual pinches. The guzheng went from dull to quick, a fast torrential rain speeding along. It seemingly made people see two armies engaged in a decisive battle, the sound moving heaven and earth, and the roof tiles seemed to fly and drop. Upon closer inspection, there was the sound of metal drums, of swords and crossbows, of men and horses, making the listeners exert themselves, then frightening them afterwards, so touching in this way was the music. Those young women could not help but dance along with the music. With long swords in hand, they appeared to be swimming dragons, their bodies handsome and wonderful. The originally very graceful sword dance passed through Yanizhan's accompanying music, and it immediately was even more prominently imposing and majestic, vastly spectacular. Yanizhan's expression was earnest. At this time, she brimmed with a peace and an entirely different imposing air. Su Xing could not help but be enchanted, and he did not discover that the little whirlwind Chai Ling to the side was casting a meaningful glance at him. The night's color was deep and dense, the moon bright and soft. A corridor of the great circle castle. Su Xing opened his eyes and crawled out from bed. He did not disturb Wu Xinjie and Yanizhan, instead walking by himself to the Phoenix Dance Hall. The gentle lighting made the Phoenix Dance Hall especially tender. A queen-like beauty sat before a seat with 2 fingers on her lips, half charming, half noble. In her surroundings, 2 young women wearing magnificent golden robes held palace lamps in their hands, not moving in the slightest. Chai Ling, what business do you have using sound transmission to see me at night? Ha! Could it be that you actually want a lustful night? Su Xing was not surprised to see her waiting appearance. Being flippant and insincere once before this palace is enough. Chai Ling dully said. What's the matter, to insist that we talk alone? Su Xing shrugged. Chai Ling opened the golden feather fan, covering the shallow smile on her red lips. This palace is only very curious about the man that could sign the knowledge star and skillful star. It's a nose and 2 eyes, anyways. Su Xing sat in front of her, bored. When you speak, it is very interesting, but a sweet enough mouth is not sufficient to make the knowledge star and skillful star serve you. This palace can see it, the feelings Wu Xinjie has for you are deeply rooted. Even if she were to give her body up to you, she is apparently willing. That skillful star wanderer's outer appearance is cold, yet she is able to invest everything into you. If this palace has not guessed wrongly, if you wanted to take Yanixin's virginity, she would not refuse either. This arrogant queen of a Chai Ling's gaze was very sinister. They had barely met face to face, yet she lay bare in a few words that subtle relationship. Furthermore, these so explicit and direct words of hers made Su Xing startled over and over. His ears heated up, for he was somewhat embarrassed. What do you want to say? To make a star general willingly hand over her red pellet, 5, for a star cultivator, this certainly is rare to see in 1,000 years. This palace wants to say, since they are so inclined to you, as their man, should you not do some things? 2. Su Xing's brows were even deeper. To borrow the red ink iron certificate is very simple. This palace suddenly thought of something. If you take the virginities of these two sisters together, this palace shall lend it to you. Chai Ling quietly laughed. You actually stayed inside this castle for too long and wound up becoming a pervert. Hearing that she took Wu Xinjie and Yanixin's virginities to be a business transaction, Su Xing's heart was somewhat a bit furious. What, you dared to speak of yourself as a man of lustful nights every night, with each new climax replaced by another to this palace? Could it be that this is not an extremely rare and honorable opportunity? Chai Ling did not become angry. Her smile, as before, was brimming with a dallying manner. Right now is actually an extremely rare good opportunity. How about I let your majesty first taste a flavor that would make you wish you were dead right now? Su Xing's eyes slightly narrowed. Jinji and Yuya lifted their heads. Those ice-cold eyes had surprise. So it turns out you are afraid of the harm that taking their virginities will have on them? Chai Ling had an epiphany, suddenly instructing the Yuya beside her. Su Xing was curious about what she was going to do. Not long after, Yuya returned to the hall. She held in her hands 2 bottles, one yellow, the other blue. Chai Ling threw the bottles to Su Xing, and when he held them in his hands, one bottle had a slight chill while the other had a slight warmth. Holding them in his hands, his body could not help but throb. Inside these bottles is Yin-Yang Lovemaking Powder, 7, a treasure that this palace collected. For those rare sisters that devote themselves to a star master, this is a gift to you. The woman ingests the Yin powder, the man ingests the Yang powder. Not only will making love greatly increase your power, complementing each other through dual cultivation, the price of a star general losing her virginity can easily be recovered. Chai Jing wore a crafty smile. How could Su Xing believe her? Heaven knew whether or not this queen was swindling him. However, Su Xing saw that these bottles was indeed rare. He stowed it away. I shall kindly receive it. As far as taking their virginities, we shall not trouble you to care about this sort of matter. Harmonious couples naturally take form one day, and such cannot be imposed. You put it so eloquently. Chai Ling covered her smile. But you do not do this, you are unwilling to do that, not one of this palace's requests have been answered. You are too impudent. Although this palace is Liangshan's richest person, neither is this palace a philanthropist. Chao Ling's smile slightly carried ridicule. This palace shall again give you a chance. If you take the knowledge star's virgin part, this red ink iron certificate shall be lent to you. Even if this knowledge star lost her virginity, the effects are not great. This graceful queen, Chao Ling's mouth spoke of deflowering Wu Xinjie and of virgin bodies. It truly filled Su Xing's heart with rage. Seeing that arrogant and self-important attitude of hers, he knew she was relying on her riches to make things hard for him. He sincerely wanted to see this as a joke, but Wu Xinjie apparently was very attached to this red ink iron certificate. For her sake, Su Xing had no choice but to suppress his anger. If he had an aphrodisiac, he truly was very willing to drench this woman with it. 8. What do you have to not be happy about? This palace truly does not understand. Chao Ling was truly puzzled. Are not all men animals that think with their lower halves? This palace gave you such a good opportunity, it is only natural for you to take your women. You surprisingly do not thank this palace. That knowledge star has some desires of you, and this palace is someone who helps others achieve their wishes. Su Xing suddenly rose, his whole body enshrouded in a cold air. walking towards her. Jinji and Yuya immediately stepped forward. Chai Ling's delicate hands waved, not at all concerned. The little whirlwind had the red ink iron certificate on her, so no one in this world could hurt her. Seeing Su Xing's face covered in cold frost, she felt this was even more interesting. Su Xing walked right up to her, and his eyes sized her up without any restraint. Those firm and upright breasts were very capable of making people's blood vessels spray open. Her pair of vaguely erotic eyes were really alluring, with absolutely beautiful facial features and a graceful figure, pure white feet, and even that absolutely sensual body brimmed with a flavor filled with allure. Do you really think yourself very rich? That money can be exceedingly high. Su Xing suddenly asked. What would you say? Chai Ling asked in return. Want to make a bet to see how very poor and pedantic you really are? Su Xing showed a cunning smile. Chai Ling only felt that she seemingly had been gazed upon as if she was a sheep. Under that sharp gaze, the clothes covering her body seemingly lost their use, as if not a single thread hung on her body. Chai Ling used her hand to slightly cover the exposed portion of her breasts without leaving a trace, gracefully and haughtily answering, "How do you wish to gamble?" Su Xing pointed to a set of Chinese chess, smiling, "Let's gamble with Chinese chess." Chai Ling had thought Su Xing would want to gamble something, but unexpectedly, it was Chinese chess. Che could not help but make a light disapproving sigh. You wish to use Chinese chess to show this palace is poor and destitute. You really are too creative. Chinese chess is only the method, the outcome is the important point. The noble star discerned the meaning of Su Xing's words. She unenthusiastically smiled. What plan do you have? If I lose, then I will stay to listen to your commands. Su Xing expressionlessly looked at the little whirlwind. Chai Ling shook her head, covering her smile. This palace still wants to see the knowledge star lose her virginity. Su Xing's eyes flashed a trace of ice cold. He coldly grinned. If you lose, I want you to follow my request to cram gold onto the chessboard. Cram onto the chessboard? Chai Ling broke into laughter. And how shall it be crammed? Using 100 liang should be sufficient. Su Xing used his hand to point at the chessboard. If little sister Chai Ling loses, place 1 liang of gold upon the first square of this chessboard. 2 liang in the second, 4 liang in the third, 8 in the fourth, and the fifth would have 16 liang. In a similar way, increase as you go one by one through the squares all the way to this last 64th square. Finally, give this gold to your servant. This is the request, little sister Chai Ling wouldn't refuse, right? After listening to Su Xing's request, Chai Ling had nearly laughed to death. What did filling her trillion liang of gold onto this insignificant 64-square Chinese chessboard count as? She looked at Su Xing with a look that could not help but be full of mockery. This palace is even about to think over being your elder sister, but do not be satisfied with this small of a gain. Is it this simple? You can slowly laugh, but I will see how you cry in a moment. Su Xing thought. The most famous chessboard bet on this earth at first glance seemed very simple, but it seemed it would thoroughly and absolutely make Chai Ling's jaw drop. It is this simple. Su Xing said, but, I hear Noblewoman Chai is stingy and very fond of hoarding gold. The person herself should be a bit more generous. If you lose, you can also not stuff it, but it must be exchanged for 3 other requests. What requests? Chai Ling actually wanted to know what other thoughts the youth before her had. The first request, lend us the red ink iron certificate. Chai Ling nodded, this is nothing. The second request, whenever you see your servant in the future, sweetly call out Big Brother Su Xing. This request immediately arose in Su Xing purely due to Chai Ling's arrogant manner. She stayed away from what she did not like, so Su Xing was even more insistent on this. Chai Ling's brow slightly wrinkled. She was not angry, but smiled instead. You truly are bold. Do not think that staying behind in this castle will let you have lustful nights every night. This palace has but many ways to treat you. This palace agrees to this calling out of yours. The third request. Seeing as milady's mouth was hung full of filthy words just now, your servant wants to make milady give your servant an erotic dance, but thinking about it, it would be better to forget about it. If you are filled with resentment, just sending me your kiss will do. Su Xing sneered. She took Wu Xingjia's virgin body to be like business merchandise in her eyes, so Su Xing could not help having the idea to punish her. Originally, he had something even more nasty, but the other person was the noble star Little Whirlwind, after all. Reflecting over and over again, he could only have a kiss as a gift. What this palace said was not wrong. Men only naturally are creatures that think with their lower halves. Hearing Su Xing's request, Chai Ling actually laughed out loud. She collapsed the golden thread feather fan, and she had a cold look in her eyes and a tone that immediately fell to the freezing point. Then this palace shall let you see your servant's financial might. Don't be so hasty, first play a round of Chinese chess. Su Xing smiled. So as to avoid you blaming Big Brother for not caring for you. A cold wind suddenly rushed in. And then it broke apart in front of Su Xing. Hair was raised, and there were several fractures. Hearing Su Xing say as such, Jinji and Yuye then made a move. Su Xing was calm as a flower, electricity jumping between his fingers. Jinji, Yuye, what are you two doing? Just let this man speak as he pleases. Fancy that this palace believed in treating you favorably for signing the knowledge star and skillful star. It seems you are nothing more than a frivolous lecher. This palace suddenly actually wants a court eunuch to serve her, too. Chai Ling smiled yet did not, a natural and sumptuous attitude. You will not refuse, will you? Then little sister must remember to send me a kiss. At first, they seemed to be sweethearts flirtatiously bantering, but on closer inspection, each of the two had a cold glint in their eyes, opposing each other with equal sharpness, each brimming with the concentrated scent of gunpowder. Chao Ling had actually been bored in this great circle castle for a very long time, and suddenly encountering this interesting matter, she was actually full of interest. A table to play chess on was set up. The Chinese chessboard was carved from black scented white pear wood, which was very expensive. Each piece was built completely from precious jade valued at several hundred million. The red side was white lotus jade, and the black side was black ink essence, which were priceless. The 90 intersections over the entire chessboard were all inlaid with considerably pricey green jade. This Chai Ling was rich and overbearing as expected, with anything from the Great Circle Castle being above 100 million. Su Xing chose black. Liangshan's Chinese chess and the Chinese chess he had previously seen were no different. His old grandfather was an incredible Chinese chess player, having previously defeated several national players with one move. Su Xing frequently played with him at home, and to speak of it, this Chinese chess was a specialty of Su Xing's. Chai Ling was also considered proficient in Chinese chess. She was set up on high, so the queen who paid no attention worldly affairs found herself some fun to pass the time. Chai Ling grasped the lotus jade white piece to take the first turn. Seeing Su Xing so haughty, seeking victory so impatiently, she wished she could take Su Xing's general 3 in one fell swoop. He gathered his spirits, straightened his soldiers and spurred his horses, rushing his chariots like the wind, throwing himself directly at the opponent's positions. The moment an expert moved, that was when it was known whether or not he had the knowledge. Seeing the very first steps of Chai Ling, Su Xing's heart was even more certain he would beat her. In modern Chinese chess, techniques had already been perfected, so why would he fear he could not defeat her? Su Xing planned in advance, taking matters calmly, tightening his defenses and slowing his attack, firmly controlling the center zone. Not long after, both sides were engaged in fierce close-quarters combat, entering the mid-game phase. Su Xing contemplated for a short while, resolutely sending his chariot into the opponent's tiger den. Afterwards, he jumped the horse for the general, sinking his soldiers to the bottom line. His chariot firmly grasped the throat, an attack like a cannon barrage firing in succession. And in a short instant, he had checkmated her. Chai Ling was stunned, actually holding somewhat of a new level of respect for Su Xing. To be so calm under Chinese chess for his age, even veterans would not make her astonished. Although she lost, the little whirlwind was not dismayed. She called out, "Jinji, take 1,000,000 liang of gold to fill this Chinese chessboard. The remainder might as well be gifted to this young lord, too." The noble star little whirlwind wore a slight sneer, as if she was saying, cramming this Chinese chess with gold was truly childish. 1,000,000 liang. You have to count clearly. Su Xing chuckled. Could it be you are dissatisfied with this little? Just now, I said to place 1 liang of gold on this chessboard's first square, 2 liang in the second square, 4 liang in the third square, 8 liang in the fourth square. The fifth square would be 16 liang, and so on all the way to the last 64th square. Is that not correct? Su Xing smiled. When Chai Ling heard him, she had thought Su Xing would say something, but it was just using this method to fill it. Her mouth smiled yet did not, and her eyes brimmed with ridicule. Indeed so. This palace had even thought you would make her shocked, but it was only so. Her grand trillion liang of gold, was it possible it was unable to fill the board? It was only an insignificant 64 squares. Jinji, Yuya, just follow according to what this young lord Su Xing said. Jinji and Yuya voiced their assent. They crowded the chessboard, putting their heads together as they counted. Counting on and on, the continuously cold and statuesque expressions of the two girls suddenly exhibited great changes. They were stupefied, unable to utter even a word. This was the first time Chai Ling had seen the two maids forget themselves like this. She could not help but furrow her brow in annoyance, asking, "What? However large the amount, just give it to him. There is no need to be frightened into that manner." Jinji stammered, "Milady, milady," counting in accordance to this method of his. Upon reaching the 64th square, giving all of milady's gold to him would be nothing more than a small sum. "What?" Chai Ling loudly shouted, severely saying, "You two must have got it wrong. Milady, slave servant does not dare." Jinji and Yuya looked at Su Xing, the expressions full of astonishment. Chai Ling wrinkled her brow, turning her head around to stare at Su Xing. She saw he still acted as if nothing had happened. "What? Did you suddenly feel your so-called vast wealth equal to that of a nation is pitifully lacking?" Su Xing thoughtfully smiled, even an insignificant chessboard could not be filled. "How could it be that this palace's trillion in wealth is insufficient for you?" Chai Ling scoffed. She had Jinji and Yuya withdraw and counted the gold herself. A while later, the graceful little whirlwind immediately lost her color, and that golden thread feather fan fell to the ground. How could it be this much? Her mouth hung agape in surprise. Su Xing was not a single bit shocked at her astonishment. The words he gave Chai Ling were from Earth mathematics extremely famous, Sessa's wheat and chessboard problem. 5. She perhaps was pretty good in business, but this seemingly simple chessboard's gold actually very easily confused people. Because the chessboard was only 64 squares at first glance, accumulating from the 1 liang on the first square was not much. The several tens of 10,000s would be sufficient, but the terror of this type of successive accumulation lay at the end. The more towards the end, that absolutely was an astronomical figure. If she really wanted to fill this 64-square chessboard, that was an astronomical figure reaching 20 places. This little bit of capital of Chai Ling's was not enough to fill the gaps between teeth. "Milady." Jinji and Yuya were somewhat anxious. "Darling little sister Chai Ling, why don't you call out big brother?" Su Xing chuckled. The little whirlwind Chai Ling looked at Su Xing filled with fear. Unbelievably, this seemingly superficial youth would think of this frightening of a calculation method. Chai Ling had no choice but to concede. All of her wealth was incapable of satisfying the condition. That a tiny chessboard could be this mysterious made Chai Ling feel disbelief. Amazing, worthy of the one who could sign the skillful star. "This palace has underestimated you," Chai Ling said. "Isn't it too late to say such nice words? I previously said, if you are unable to do it, don't forget those 3 requests." Su Xing ruthlessly used forceful words, call out big brother right now. Do not be too impudent. Jinji and Yuya said in cold voices when they heard this. To make their lady, the Grand Queen of the Great Circle, go calling a man that looked smaller than her big brother was simply supreme humiliation. Cease, you too. Ling stared at Su Xing, biting her lips hard enough to draw a trace of blood. If it was before this, Su Xing perhaps would have had a change of heart, but now he remained unmoved. Who let her regard Wu Xingjia's chastity as a bill? Big brother. Ling squeezed these two words out with extreme difficulty, wishing she could eat Su Xing alive. Seeing the setup on high and arrogant Her Majesty the Queen say, big brother, Su Xing truly felt incomparable satisfaction. Little sister Ling must leave light refreshments. You can be considered incredible. Ling's silvery teeth bit tightly. Right, there seemed to be something else. Ling immediately lost her color. Ling's eyes opened wide as she stared, very shocked at Su Xing compared to that exceedingly sensual, smiling yet not carefree appearance. The current noble star Little Whirlwind truly was like fish meat that had reached the end of the chopping board, giving Su Xing free rein to slaughter her. It was a seemingly pitiful appearance. That flowery fragrance on the woman's body assailed the nostrils, a serene and beautiful attractiveness. Ling brimmed with indignation, yet she did not know what she should do. Su Xing gazed at her, and seeing the resentment in her eyes, he could not help but stop smiling. After all, he did not like looking at this kiss as if it were a rape, as he quickly lost his mood. The woman's delicate fragrance and Su Xing's male scent lingered and mingled, and for a while, neither of the two said anything. Just at this moment, a charming sentence broke this type of awkward atmosphere, even bringing relief to this mood between the two. He saw Wu Xingjie walk in giggling with Yanizhan following closely behind. Seeing this ambiguous position that Su Xing and Little Whirlwind Chai Jin were in, the knowledge star's eyelids jumped. Smiling, she said, young lord. Stop teasing little sister Ling already. Su Xing heard the meaning behind Wu Xingjie's words. He then bluntly pinched Ling's pretty cheeks, saying, since you are my little sister Ling, how could I kiss you? Saying that, he then left from her body. Little Whirlwind Ling inwardly let out a breath of air, looking at Su Xing with a gaze full of fear. Little sister Ling, now that you alone have seen my young master, do you know why Xingjie and Little Yi would serve young master? Wu Xingjie said. Ling straightened out the disorderly appearance of the front of her shirt. Milady, Yuya passed the golden thread feather fan. Ling took the fan. Unfolding it, she covered her red lips, the movement not as graceful as before. Clearly, she was still somewhat nervous. This palace truly admires to the extreme. Elder sister's young master indeed is an exceptional character. The noble star turned the knowledge star into her elder sister, her words carrying a trace of respect that evolved from her heart. Since little sister Ling has had a test, it would be better to take the chance to discuss this matter of the red ink iron certificate. Elder sister's man is amazing. This palace shall lend it. Ling's eyes rolled, and flinging her hand, a piece of jade appeared, approximately 2 chi long and 2 inches wide. The main focus of the jade piece was green-colored glass, sparkling bright. It had a drifting shimmer, and around this jade piece were stars as far as the eye could see, lighting up the room with its sparkling. Elder sister certainly has taken advantage of little sister's person. Looking at the red ink iron certificate, Wu Xingjie did not receive it at all. Ling raised her brows, her tone thoughtful. Why does elder sister not receive it? About that bet just now, young lord was only joking around with little sister. How could this red ink iron certificate be bet? The knowledge star said. The little whirlwind declined to comment. She looked towards Wu Xingjie with a gaze full of peculiarity. We had better still make a deal. Wu Xingjie said. This palace likes business deals. Ling showed a bit of cheer. What agreement does little sister want to be willing to lend the red ink iron certificate to us? Wu Xingjie shook her head. Ling glanced at Su Xing. Do not speak any more of what was said previously, Xinjie cannot do that. Wu Xinjie interrupted her words. Ling smiled. Elder sister is actually afraid this palace will snatch your man. Your man is so fierce, this palace unfortunately cannot enjoy him. Since elder sister Knowledge Star said so, it may be assumed a solution has already been planned out. Do not hesitate to discuss with this palace. Good. Wu Xinjie was firm. If you lend the red ink iron certificate to us, how about if my young lord helps you obtain that star beast? Ling's leisurely expression concentrated, sinking into deep thought. Wu Xinjie was full of self-confidence, unafraid that Ling's heart would not move. Star beasts were the guardian beasts of star generals. They were something every star general was required to have. Only by possessing it could they be considered genuine star generals. In the case a star beast and star general assembled together, they could practically laugh their way through a majority of Liangshan. Although the noble star Little Whirlwind Ling broke away from the star duels because of the red ink iron certificate, no matter how her status was put, she was still a star general. Thus, she also could obtain a star beast. It was just that obtaining this star beast required the third phase Evil Smiting Hall as well as the Evil Smiting Writ. If the noble star wanted to obtain hers, she would have to participate in the star duels. In previous history, not a single noble star had ever obtained their star beast. However, it was not impossible for a knowledge star to obtain her star beast without participating in the star duels. She just had to go about it herself and was fine as long as she did not use the red ink iron certificate. It sounded simple, but the problem was that only star generals and star masters could enter this evil smiting hall. The noble star had no one to rely on, and not using the red ink iron certificate inside was unfair, so in the past always, even if the little whirlwind noblewoman wealth had wealth equal to a nation's and contempt of authority and law, she never had a star beast. As far as a star general was concerned, this was a lifelong regret. How can this palace be convinced you will not harm this palace? Ling said coldly. Young lord wishes to change the situation of war for us sisters, not at all hoping for a fight to the death. As long as you do not become enemies with us, we naturally will not harm you. On this point, Xinjie can make a pledge to you. Wu Xinjie made a solemn vow. Yanizhan also can guarantee it. Yanizhan also said. Su Xing nodded, too. Ling's eyeballs turned. She indeed was beginning to stir for this star beast. This was a dream the 8th generation noble star never fulfilled. If she said she was not interested, she would be lying. Jinji, Yuye, go bring that thing over. Ling said. Milady, could it be that you actually want to participate? Jinji and Yuye anxiously shouted. This palace has her own plans. Ling said coldly. The two maids did not say anything more. A short while afterwards, the two maids brought over a box. The inside of the box was embroidered with cloth, wrapping a black bottle gourd containing some bizarre object. Milady. You must think this over. Worry was spread all over Jinji and Yuye's faces. It seemed this medicine was very frightening. Ling covered her mouth, smiling yet not. This item is known as, Together to Hell, Together to Hell. Wu Xinjie lost her voice, and Yanizhan showed astonishment when she heard this. Together to Hell. The name apparently sounded not particularly lucky. Su Xing furrowed his brow and asked, what does this thing do? This is but a legend-rank spirit item. Wu Xinjie said in disbelief as she looked at Ling, you surprisingly were able to obtain even this item? As Su Xing thought, Together to Hell was an immemorial spirit item. Legend had it that it grew at the entrance to the 9 hells. Enriched by the nether rivers, 2, a bridge of helplessness, 3, changed from the essence chi of sweethearts dying together. If a man and woman each ate this, then their feelings could be mutually sensitive to one another. Of course, its most unusual aspect was that if one of the two died, the other would also die at the same time, truly going to hell together. Thus, this Together to Hell was also called by people, death at the same year, same month, same day, same time. When Su Xing heard this, he clicked his tongue. It really was quite abnormal. The 6th generation noble star obtained this. Originally, she planned to obtain her star beast with the help of this, but she never could find a suitable partner. As a result, it was passed down until it came into this palace's hands, and it just so happens this palace shall use it. You aren't thinking of ingesting it with me, right? Su Xing said, startled. Ling smiled thoughtfully, her attitude arrogant. This is the only way that this palace can believe you. Out of the question. This is too dangerous. Yanizhan objected. Wu Xinjie also hesitated. She actually did not expect that Ling would unexpectedly bring out such a spirit item. Dangerous? Could it be the dangerous thing is not this palace? Ling said, amused, that your young master has signed on to the star duels is to die 9 times and still be alive. If this man dies, this palace certainly wants to die alongside him, and this palace has the red ink iron certificate for self-protection. There is no one in this world who can kill this palace, so the one who gets the worst of it indeed is this palace. These words of the little whirlwind left Yanizhan speechless. They sounded very true. Then if you commit suicide, won't I die along with you? Su Xing wrinkled his brow. You jest. This palace is willing to sacrifice herself for you in the name of love. What grand dreams are you having? Ling snorted disdainfully. If you want this palace to believe you, then we shall both eat this together to hell. Otherwise, invitation rescinded. Oh, right. Do not misunderstand elder sisters. Ling looked towards Su Xing, ridiculing. This palace indeed has no interest in handing her life over to this type of man. Until after the evil smiting hall passes, this palace naturally can find methods to relieve herself of this. That she would not dare entrust her life to a person fighting for the star duels, the group firmly believed this point was true. If we're eating, then let's eat. Su Xing thought a bit, and actually did not think there was anything to be worried about. Just as Ling said, the one who should be even more worried was she herself. After all, she had an immortal body, a difference of heaven and earth from when Su Xing received deadly pursuits. Wu Xinjie and Yanizhan looked at their young master and the other star general about to bind together in life and death. Their hearts truly felt extremely complex, and the knowledge star sighed from the bottom of her heart. Making a married couple sort of 1,000-year contract with that Princess Liangshan was fine, but for this next star general that had not signed a contract to be in life or death together with their master, they were gloomy just thinking about it. But that red ink iron certificate was of vital importance, and not obtaining it was not doable. Thinking about the benefits, signing this sort of unconventional contract could be considered as having the noble star's helping hand. Together to hell hung suspended in the air. Ling gazed at Su Xing, the corners of her mouth curving coldly. Since this palace lost a kiss to you, this kiss shall be returned to you. This palace shall pretend she was bitten by a dog. And what does this have to do with a kiss? Su Xing did not understand. As it turned out, this together to hell required the man and woman each to bite one end of the gourd. Afterwards, they had to imbue it with their divine intents until the black gourd turned a pure white and then swallow. Finally, they each must lock lips in a kiss and breathe in divine intent. Only then could they achieve a genuine joint trip to hell. Su Xing blushed with shame when he finished listening. This thing was indeed abnormal. Biting onto the together to hell with Ling, he saw Ling's eyebrows rise, maintaining an arrogant bearing. A moment later, the black gourd became white, and Su Xing clearly saw the eyes of the woman in front of him had some panic. Su Xing secretly laughed to himself, and after snapping the gourd, they then kissed. This was still the first time Ling had been embraced like this by a man, especially with those noble red lips of hers being shamelessly sucked by her counterpart. This deep kiss of Su Xing's was considered to be practiced, and a light suck was enough to render her body limp. The Jinji and Yiye to the side watched with endless indignation. How could their proud lady be dominated by a man like this? Ling, do not forget to breathe in the divine intent. Wu Xinjie gloomily reminded. The noble star's eyes immediately restored their sobriety. Hooking her tongue, a perfume-like fragrance entered Su Xing's body. Shua! Su Xing suddenly retreated. He avoided the wind stirred by Chai Ling's palm in time. Noblewoman Chai coldly smiled, "Do not take a mile when this palace give an inch." It was a habit. Su Xing patted his left hand, embarrassed. Wu Xinjie blushed red from looking. How could she not know why Chai Ling was resentful? It definitely was her young master's fault. Whenever they kissed, his hand was never too well behaved. The morning light drifted, and the curtains were pulled open. Chai Ling's full-body luxurious palace dress was hung by window. She gazed at the distant figure, her eyes seemingly cold yet not, her mouth seemingly smiling yet not. "Milady, why would you ingest this together to hell with that shameless man?" Jinji and Yuye were extremely confused. "Does this palace need to explain anything she does to you too?" Chai Ling's tone was cold. Jinji and Yuye promptly lowered their head, acknowledging their mistake. Chai Ling's tone softened, and she said, "It seems this man is out of the ordinary. To have the knowledge star and the skillful star, how could it be that easy to die? This time, this palace must obtain her own star beast. Slave servant understands." Chai Ling opened her fan to conceal her red lips. Her jade fingers gently stroked them, for that detestable breath still lingered upon her lips. In the end, she heavily harumphed. Suddenly, Chai Ling raised her head, looking at that far-off heaven-raising pillar, Maiden Mountain, swell with purple light. This purple light spread widely across the lands of Liangshan, its rays dazzling. Jinji and Yuye showed astonishment. The noble star Little Whirlwind Chai Ling narrowed her eyes. This purple star-grade birth outline had finally appeared. Su Xing flew east on his riding sword. Although he spent only one night this time at Sangzhou's Great Circle Castle with the Little Whirlwind, it was hard to imagine the events that had transpired in this single night. He unexpectedly signed this type of abnormal contract of the together to hell with Liangshan's richest person, Little Whirlwind Chai Jin. Counting Zhao Hanyan's 1,000-year contract, he currently unexpectedly bore 3 types of distinct contracts on his person, and it was that type of mutual life and death. It made Wu Xinjie feel greatly surprised. "Young lord, god, whatever. Do not tell Ying Mei and the others about making this together to hell with Chai Ling, so as to avoid worry," Su Xing said. Knowledge star. Why did you not accept just then when the noble star lent young master the red ink iron certificate? Liangshan asked. If not, there was not need to agree to help the Little Whirlwind to capture her star beast. Wu Xinjie had no way out, there was no other way. The red ink iron certificate is Chai Jin's destined star weapon. She can recall it back to within her body at any time. Chai Ling would not accept young lord using that method, and she is not a person willing to suffer losses. If she were to suddenly recall the red ink iron certificate at the pivotal moment, the consequences would be too horrible to contemplate. After hearing Wu Xinjie's analysis, Su Xing and Liangshan broke out in a cold sweat of alarm. If it was not for Wu Xinjie switching to a different type of style, when they used the red ink iron certificate to save their lives, it would lose its function. Indeed, there would be no place to cry out grievances. Not only have we been lent the red ink iron certificate, we were also lent 100 billion. 2. This Little Whirlwind Chai Jin actually is rich. Su Xing said. The 100 billion acted as something that had to be used when helping Chai Ling accept or reject the Evil Smiting Hall. Evil Smiting Hall's dangers were severe, and how could the ranked 10th Noble Star's star beast be so easy to obtain? It would be inexcusable any way it was put to not provide operational funds. Chai Ling had glimpsed this star beast for a very long time, so she might as well fully use Help the Needy for justice all at once. If it was not for Help the Needy's maximum amount being 100 billion, he would have tried to get just a bit more, based on her trillion of wealth. Just at this time, there was suddenly a purple light in the sky. Su Xing, Wu Xinjie and Yan Yizhen raised their heads, immediately seeing that faraway Maiden Mountain erupt in purple light. The heavens seemingly became a deep valley of purple. Rays of light soared out, spraying everywhere. Even if that sky-splitting, earth-opening imposing air was more than tens of thousands of li away, they could sense it. The purple star birth outline, it has appeared, flaming Eastern Island, the skies above. Su Xing returned to the Four Styles School. Surveying the countless cultivators all in the skies on their riding swords, their gazes were directed towards the heaven-raising pillar. That immense purple was showing off to the entire Liangshan just like a dragon emerging from the sea. Everyone stared in rapture. Not only was flaming Eastern Island, even farther places also had cultivators. You act as a tool refinement master yet you wander everywhere. How did martial ant ever take in a disciple like you? The one who let out such a displeased voice was Ruan Hongxue. Su Xing glared at her, and this tsundere girl promptly shrunk back her neck in fear. All men are mortal, and it was best to use evil to control evil when handling this sort of evil person. Su Xing did not have interest in lowering himself to the level of a little girl. Spotting Yang Yanyu, he asked, "Senior sister, why is everyone gathering here?" The purple star-grade birth outline has appeared. Yang Yanyu said in amazement. Of course Su Xing knew this, if it appeared, then it's appeared. It's not like we can get it. This is a matter seen once in 100 years. Even if we cannot get it, it is enough to see it. Yang Yanyu giggled. Su Xing shook his head. Noticing Tang Liangshan was not present, he recalled that the fire beacon chariot had yet to be returned to her. The bamboo forest. Su Xing saw that Tang Liangshan just happened to be gazing at the purple clouds in the sky somewhat entranced. Apologies. I forgot to return this to you. Su Xing took out the fire beacon chariot, want to go take a look together. Tang Liangshan shook her head, dully replying, what is there to see about this? Right, tell master, tell her that I am entering seclusion to cultivate the heavenly will water flame. Su Xing remembered something and asked a favor. Secluded cultivation. Tang Liangshan stared blankly. What's wrong? Su Xing looked at her staring at her. I have something to give you. Tang Liangshan gestured with her hand, and a scroll then flew before Su Xing. It was Su Xing's turn to be surprised, for this scroll was the astral tool, weapon removal scroll. Perhaps it will be of use. Tang Liangshan turned her head away, then proceeded to mind her own things. Thanks. There was a warm feeling inside Su Xing's heart. How could he not know her intentions? Just as Su Xing was about to leave, Tang Liangshan wanted to say something but hesitated. In the end, she shook her head, gazed at the sky, and muttered to herself, the purple star-grade birth outline, 3, returning to the void immortal's abode. Lin Yingmei, and Suan and Shi Yuan had been waiting for a long time. Su Xing, did you manage to borrow the red ink iron certificate from that stingy woman? Shi Yuan nervously asked. I borrowed it. Su Xing took out the red ink iron certificate. This is that legendary powerful star weapon that can make one immortal and indestructible. And Suan gasped in surprise. Yingmei, how is your 2-star destined weapon? Wu Xinjie asked. Lin Yingmei grunted. Raising her hand, the Arctic Star Serpent spear appeared in her hand. 2 white bright stars decorated the spear's surroundings, shimmering as they released light. The Arctic star was dazzling, and the entire spear showed an even more completely pure white ice-cold feeling. A heavenly star general's 2-star weapon, it's unequaled. Shi Yuan happily said. In the second phase birth outline's final stages, although 2 stars could not be said to be that exceptional, that power was absolutely top quality. Don't say that. I fear that there are already 3 and 4 stars. Wu Xinjie smiled. Sister Xinjie, don't scare me. How could those be here so quickly? Shi Yuan blankly said. Wu Xinjie's words certainly were not a joke. In every generation of star duels, along with a star weapon's most important levels, the speed of each star weapon upgrade would be even faster because these procedures would all be very practiced. For 3 stars to appear now was not at all strange, however, a heavenly star's 3-star was also a checkpoint. Thus, this 3-star also was not that easy to ascend to. To upgrade to 3 stars at this time perhaps was a powerful foe. Sister Ingmei's 3-star needs what? It would be good to upgrade to 3-star right now, this way, we would have an even better guarantee of plundering purple star grade. Sure, Yuan giggled. Lin Ingmei felt the spear. Star generals had a reaction towards their own destined star weapons, so each phase, they could easily find out the materials needed for the next upgrade. This time, Lin Ingmei's brows tightly wrinkled, 12 pieces of ice kite Arctic jade and 80 liang of silver snow sand. Ah! The beauties were startled when they heard these materials. Ice kite Arctic jade. I actually do have a piece of ice kite Arctic stone. Su Xing furrowed his brow. The 3-star of Lin Ingmei's star weapon was really too excessive. Generally, the pure items extracted from the original stones were named jade, and this ice kite Arctic jade happened to be pure jade extracted from ice kite Arctic stone. Ordinarily, precious stone craftsmen did the extraction, but precious stone craftsmen were more sparse than tool refinement masters. Its value would become 5 or 6 times greater, so if Ice Kite Arctic Stone was 100 million, then Ice Kite Arctic Jade's value was 5 or 600 million. 12 pieces of Ice Kite Arctic Jade needed 7 billion. And that silver snow sand was even more excessive, for it was an Arctic-type supreme-grade sand. Converting to gold, it was approximately 100 million, so 80 liang was 8 billion. In terms of gold, Lin Ingmei's 3-star upgrade required 15 billion. That support money of Chai Ling's was simply insufficient to fill the gaps between teeth. So excessive. How do you normally advance the grade? Su Xing was speechless. Generally, we go to areas where materials should be and gather from there. For example, in extremely cold places, or the White Tiger territory, the Black Turtle territory, Lin Ingmei said. So the Heavenly Star's star weapon grade advancement too was with great difficulty. If there were no opportunities, the majority reached their peak at 3 or 4 star. However, the higher a star weapon's grade, gathering would also be simpler. After all, at that time, destined weapons would be awesome with no need to fear most dangers. Of course, star weapons' grade advancement would double in materials compared to the previous stage. For example, the first star was 20 liang of relic blade sand, 2 star was 40 liang, 3 star was 80 liang. Su Xing counted for a bit, and he could not help but break into a cold sweat over his whole body. If things were like this, refining to 9 star required sand material of 5,120 liang. God, Su Xing was wrong. He feared that even if Chai Ling lost her entire fortune, she would not necessarily be able to bear the burden of such terrifying expenses. After all, the further towards the end, the more rare the materials. Compared to the difficulties of upgrading the star weapons of heavenly stars, earthly star in contrast had things somewhat easier. From the very beginning, they needed less than a heavenly star, and the materials were not as strict. However, star weapon advancement was relatively very weak in the early stage, and a normal 2-star could only withstand a heavenly star's 1 star. It would be better to take this sort of matter of upgrading star weapons slowly. It cannot be rushed. Wu Xinjie said. N. The purple star grade birth outline has begun. Are we going? No need to feel anxious. The purple star grade birth outline will still need to linger for a few days. Let us finish a few things first. Wu Xinjie said. All right. Bian City's Imperial City, the Imperial Study. Emperor Liang stood on the balcony looking at the distant purple stone pillar. The sky was enshrouded in a gorgeous purple light. This purple light actually makes us recall the purple thunder monster. Emperor Liang faintly smiled. Behind him were several generals and cultivators. They each looked at one another in dismay. The purple thunder monster has certainly been found? Emperor Liang asked. Reporting to your majesty. It is unknown where the purple star monster has concealed himself, for his traces have disappeared. I fear he has disguised himself for the plundering of the birth outline. A general stepped forward to make a report. He must be found. Should he fully grasp that ghost blade, that is yet another more disastrous monster for Liangshan. Emperor Liang unenthusiastically said. By your will. Your Highness, most recently, the purple star-grade birth outline has appeared. Will your Majesty dispatch men and horses for interception? We have no need to participate in these muddy waters. Things that are more attractive to people are more dangerous. Emperor Liang gazed at the purple flying over, his expression indescribably peaceful. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.